2, 3, 4. In this podcast, you will be here. Knights of Vader, Knights of Vader includes, but is not limited to talk of Star Wars, not ray guns. We can't truly prepare you for the jump that follows this song, but hey, we gave it a try. So here's the Knights of Vader. Crystal Fox reports they are divided. Prequel, sequel, canon, love they divided. I know that we are just musicians tired, and their time is up. So here's the Knights of Vader.
Impressive. Most impressive.
A big thank you to An Insperiority Complex for providing our theme song. It is December 13th, 2020. My name is Zack and joining me today is, oh God, I almost said it, Zenger.
This is the way. I'm wearing my helmet. Unlike other people.
Can you wear the helmet into a store? Does that count as a face covering?
Oh God, I should test that.
And joining us, insert the specific number Canadian Star Wars collector here, Chris Porteous.
I think we've lost a few, so I'm probably going up. I'm probably around number 5 right at the moment. Happy to be here, guys. Oh my God, what just happened with that Disney investor call? Scary stuff.
I said prior to this call, we're gonna go like 5 minutes, and it's just gonna be Zack screaming about how something ruined his life. I'm excited.
They actually have to announce something first, because a lot of what they did here was just kind of like did what they've been doing for years, where they just throw stuff at us and they're like, it's coming. And we're all like, when? And they're like, we don't know. And we're like, that's weird. It's like the 5th time that's happened. Like, I've honestly lost track how many times they've promised us something. It never comes to fruition at this point. Like,
I don't know. There's some good series that is like computer
that went nowhere after it leaked.
And I know it's a waste.
It was a waste. It got leaked and it went absolutely nowhere, which means that they either didn't get the reaction they wanted or they didn't get enough of any reaction, period.
It got pulled down too quick. That was the problem.
But it's out there. Like, I've honestly lost track now how many times Lucasfilm has promised us something and then been like, it doesn't matter anymore. Whether that be the Rian Johnson trilogy, the Benioff and Weiss trilogy. I just don't know what to believe anymore. Apparently, from what I'm reading, that there's a Boba Fett spinoff miniseries that's shooting right now that they didn't announce. I don't know what to believe. This seems like a lot of just spitballing and hoping for the best. The Kevin Feige produced Star Wars movie that was like, a year ago that was being discussed. At this point, I have no idea what they're doing. I think they're just throwing stuff out there to make it look good for the press. I don't think that investors call, or whatever they're calling it, was meant for fans. I think it was meant there for the shareholders in Wall Street. But it's no fun to discuss things on that level. So guys, out of the 15 different shows that were announced the other day, which one are you the most excited for?
Oh, go ahead, Chris. I don't want to take your fun away.
Well, I don't know. Like, I do worry about alienating people. Like, I don't know about you guys.
Speaking of alienating people, FX will have its original Alien series there. I did the reference this time.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm glad he brought that up. I hate the fact that, like, I saw, like, oh, Disney's finally bringing the Alien franchise to Earth. I'm like, did everybody forget that basically the Alien versus Predator movies took place on Earth?
Thank you. And even the director of the second one realized that was a mistake and said, if we ever do a third one, we're going to take it back to space. Why? Because none of that belongs on Earth. Stop doing that. It wasn't good. They're fun movies. They're the worst of the series, frankly.
Alien versus Predator Requiem maybe is the best movie in the series.
Hank Ferrick, why are we having this discussion?
All right, I don't know. You know what? You know what? I will. Listen, I watched it recently. I do enjoy it. Its biggest cultural impact, from my perspective, is the teaser trailer that featured the song Silent Night, because the movie came out on Christmas Day. Exactly. And you better believe that I was there Christmas Day watching Alien vs. Predator in theaters.
I saw it I think I saw it like 2 days after Christmas. Oh, it was like I remember sitting in the theater just being like, "This is delightful. This is what I've always wanted." It's what the first movie should have been. Like, it's just a predator going against an army of aliens, like, and some stupid humans get in the way, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, the humans are pretty stupid in that movie. Yeah.
Well,
The
here's
government
my
doesn't lie to
thing.
people.
It's a good one.
I'm glad that they point out that Andor is a prequel to the Rogue One movie.
I needed that explanation. For sure.
I did too.
Guys,
Even though he's going to be it's like 7 years older than when they filmed Rogue One.
Guys, it's not a prequel. It takes place in the Star Wars multiverse. What happened was right before the explosion on Scarif, Ezra went through the world between worlds, pulled Cassian out right before the explosion. Like, that is what happened.
Well,
he never really died, therefore he couldn't come back to life.
It doesn't really matter anyways, because the real world age of an actor is actually the thing that the casting group is like least interested in when it comes to like the continuity of the series. Like, you got Bo-Katan, Obi-Wan. There's all kinds of strange actor age issues. Like Tamira Morrison's 60, supposed to be 40. You know, it's so they're not interested in that when it comes to picking an actor.
Chris, I'm going to throw a wild concept out there that no one's ever thought of before. It's almost as if Lucasfilm and Disney doesn't care. It almost.
Well,
it's a sneaking suspicion that they don't care about any of this.
Well,
at the end of the day.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's
Just
the
keep
right
seeing dollar signs in their eyes.
But if you think about it, though, it's like you're in between a rock and a hard place with casting Fett. You can't really recast him. You kind of have to.
They can do whatever they want. That's the problem.
But what would you rather them do? It be the same guy that's supposed to be, or it be somebody else who's younger?
What they should have done was not to bring Boba Fett back at all. If you want to give him a story, do something during the Empire Strikes Back era, or like during that time period. Do Shadows of the Goddamn Empire or something like that, where like you just put him in his own time period. He doesn't need to come back. Like I said, I have no problems with it. The issue is that they were clearly going to do a Boba Fett movie. The fact that James Mangold now is directing Indiana Jones 5 out from underneath Steven Spielberg, which I'm fascinated nobody's talking about.
I
thought that was the title of the movie.
Yeah. The moment Spielberg left that project, it's like, could you guys just not do it now, please? Could you just make like a new young Indiana Jones Chronicles so we can all just not care and not watch it? And that way you just do something with the franchise, but we can ignore it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, the fact that James Mangold's doing it just leads even further credence to that rumor back in May of 2018 that there was going to be a Boba Fett movie. Like I said, I based on what I said last week, or the GIF I sent Zenger.
I was going to ask about that because, like, you know, that had so much Boba Fett nonsense, and you seem to be enjoying it.
Oh, I did. No, I love Boba Fett in this. Oh, no, I am, like, wholeheartedly eating it up. Like, I squealed with delight when I saw Slave One, like, show up, and then, like, when he puts his armor on, and even in the newest episode where he has it, like, repainted. Like, oh, no, I love it. And they're actually
took the time of them trying to get back this child to be like, hold on, I got something I need to do.
Well, did you see
3 hours later? It feels right now.
No, like, that's the thing. Like, they're using, it's weird. Like, after all this time, like, it goes back. Okay, I know Chris talked about it a little bit last week with my, like, fascination with The Rise of Skywalker. I think they understand Star Wars at its best when they don't care about Star Wars. I think they back into brilliance by accident. Because the thing about Boba Fett in this show is exactly how Boba Fett should be used, period, in Star Wars. He should basically be there to be badass man. Like, we do not need a Mandalorian show. We need a show about something else, and you sprinkle in some Boba Fett on the side where he shows up and does something really cool for about 3 seconds, and that's it. Whether it be him showing up, literally killing a bunch of stormtroopers with a gaffy stick, or just showing up at the end of the episode and deploying a seismic charge from Slave One. That's all you need. You need to give him one badass moment for 3 seconds every episode, and that's great. That's all you need. You're done. You do not need to make a whole TV show around not Boba Fett.
So wait a second. So what you're saying is, if MMA McMarshall decides to turn to him after the last episode's over and go, you'd make a great Ranger of the New Republic, and that's how we get the Boba Fett series? Would you be angry or okay with that?
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think they're gonna kill off Boba Fett in this because there's no way they're gonna have to do something with him because he's gonna go out in a blaze of glory. Not Boba Fett needs a new ship, and Mandalorian's going to inherit the mantle of Boba Fett, like unofficially, unceremoniously. They have to do that because remember, this is the big thing that people were getting mad at a couple of years ago was the fact that like everyone felt Disney was trying to like overpave or pave over their stuff with the stuff from the original trilogy, and I think this is the perfect chance to do that. I think, God, it's come up a couple of times in here. I think Chris and I have mentioned it. Like, Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, is more ubiquitous in the culture for normies, not Star Wars fans, than Boba Fett ever was. Again, for normies, not for Star Wars fans. And I think
I don't know.
Is their goal.
I guess, yeah, that's probably true by this point. I guess.
Unfortunately, it's a sad reality. I don't like it. Remember, I said I point these things out. Doesn't mean I agree with them.
There might be more Boba Fett products every year, though. I don't know. Still.
But that's okay. But it's the weird thing though that I picked up on today. Like I did some shopping today. It's obviously the holidays, and like you walk around, and like it's still everything Baby Yoda. It's like I want some actual like Din Djarin Mandalorian stuff. Like I want that. I don't like. I'm tired. Not that I'm tired of Baby Yoda. Like I get it. Like he's merchandising opportunity. That was his original name before Grogu, but it's like I want the titular character. Like give me more of the titular character. And there's practically no merchandise of Din Djarin.
Well, there's like all the figures if you're into that, but I mean, like right now,
those are non-existent. Like if they honestly had just produced half as many Din Djarin figures as they did anything. Oh God, Baby Yoda related. Like that's the thing. If you're a kid or like anybody who wants a Din Djarin figure, you're out of luck unless you want. Like, you probably know the name of it, Chris. What's that new line that Hasbro's peddling now?
Well,
it's like you can little minifigs. Like they're like what 2 inches tall.
Oh yeah, right? It's a micro fleet or something like that, or exactly. No mission series. Yeah, mission series. Yeah,
like
that's. But distribution's like notoriously bad for that Hasbro stuff. But there's like a carbonized vintage collection one and a vintage collection one from with the season 2 look that has Baby Yoda packed in with him on the card that you can get. You can find that now somewhat easily. It's
really? I can't find, like, I've gone to a bunch of stores lately. And like I've been traveling, and I can't find any new. I got lucky. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, and I found like the Armorer and the Incinerator Trooper, and that was it. Like I can't find
posting
anything.
I see people posting it, but I just haven't. Like I'm not. I don't know. Like I try to keep it limited when it comes to the new stuff.
Sure.
Myself,
like, I know you guys don't have Targets in Canada anymore, but like
Toys R Us gets all that stuff here.
Sure, but like the Targets in the US have the like exclusive like helmet off Din Djarin with like Baby Yoda, the little like what do they call it, the pram cradle, and like that was supposed to come out like 2 weeks ago, and I've not seen that anywhere. And it went out of stock online the moment it was available for pre-order. And
you're talking about the vintage collection one or Black Series?
The Black Series. And Target's pretty good with their exclusives. Like usually, like I found every Target exclusive. And I have not come across that anywhere yet. And I've been to a bunch of Targets as of the last like week and a half. And I just don't like, again, you're in the throes of the show and its season. I get it. COVID, everything is clogged up. But like, I just find it fascinating that like they didn't produce any like merchandise enough merchandise of the titular character.
Well, there's this other issue like where it's like I listened to a couple podcasts of like guys who like are thoroughly into modern action figures, not just Star Wars ones, and like it's just sort of fascinating to see like to what degree like figure scalping from places like Target and Walmart's actually at like preposterous epidemic proportions. And like they'll like if a guy comes in there and he'll take all the Mandalorians and you'll find them on eBay or in Craigslist and stuff at double the cost. Like they'll like one guy will just clean it out, and then that's that store's whole shipment that they're putting out, right? And it's just like a super common practice. And like I think some internal documents and some staff notices leaked recently from like I forget if it was Target or Walmart, but they're like talking about how to spot resellers. Like they're trying to train their employees to avoid these guys, but what can you really do in the end, right? Unless you actually put unit limits on the sales.
Which is what they used. Like I remember this was back in 2006 with the Saga Collection 2 Imperial Shuttle. I remember when that came out, it was a Target exclusive at the time. I remember like I bought 2 of them. My mother and I bought 2 of them. And I remember they gave us a really hard hassle with that. Like it was like they really scrutinized us. And it's like, and I get it, like retail employees don't care. Like they genuinely don't care. So it's like, who cares as long as the product sells? But it's like I'm not even talking about availability. I just mean like the sheer breadth of product. Like
the good news is I can order the Black Series of the Mando helmet on Target.
Which isn't going to be available until sometime, in May?
April 1st. Oh.
Exactly. Like, why wasn't that ready to go by like November of this year? Like, if I walked into a Target today, I would have easily dropped $100 on that. And like, why are they waiting till May when nothing's happening for Star Wars? Unless something is happening and they just haven't announced it. But like, I don't know. Like, why wouldn't you have something ready for that like in November? Like
let's talk about the fact that they have the Ahsoka Tano FX Elite lightsaber, but you only get one of them, and it's the old version of her lightsaber. It's not the white one. What peasantry is this?
Is it?
Well, you should just be buying the new Dooku saber instead. That's what you should do. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
You have to go to Galaxy's Edge and buy the Ahsoka saber for like $300 a pop.
But the COVID, and this one's $250 a pop.
Oh my
And it's
God.
her old lightsaber from the series that apparently Ellie didn't watch. Because
it could be a lot of things at this point.
Yes. No, I was about to say, Ellie is currently only 2 episodes behind right now. And her response to where's Grand Admiral Thrawn was who? And I was like, oh.
Blue McRed Eyes?
Yeah, so then I had to show her several pictures, and she's like, oh my gosh, that looks like Pierce Brosnan. And I was like, yes, it does.
It's like, yep, Zach's right. Yeah, I don't know. Like, just the merchandising thing is all over the place. Like, Chris, I'm not sure if you collect like any of like the Chris. It's funny. I've been really delving hard into like Star Wars Hallmark ornaments as a new thing to kind of collect.
Speaking of scalping,
yeah. Oh God, like it's literally been possible to find the Baby Yoda Hallmark ornament.
I have a firsthand experience of that. I also have firsthand experience of that. I tried, I think 6 Hallmark stores, and only one of them, the display model was still up, and all the other 5, the display model was already sold. Mm-hmm. Like right off the one they have on the wall, right? And I asked them, I was like, listen, everyone I go to, this is sold. Like, just sell me the display model. And they're like, well, we're still taking pre-orders, so we're not going to do that at this time. So I went it back in there 4 days later and it was gone. But it's probably one of the staff wanted it or something. But who knows, man? But that one's tough. Even they did put out a Mandalorian one this year too. That one's a little easier to find, but still pretty scarce.
I remember with the Baby Yoda one, like when they put all their stuff out like in August, the floor display, like you said, was already gone by like August. Like I never came across it. Even on the website, it was always out of stock every time I looked for it. And not to say that I was going to buy it, but like I wanted to at least see it in person once.
I saw it in person once, and I would have bought it if I could have. It was pretty good.
It's pretty nice, like from what I've seen of like YouTube videos of it. But like it's weird that like even the Mandalorian ornament that's like season 1, like the season 1 armor or early season 1 armor is even that's been like. I think even on eBay, that's going for, I think, $45-50, which is more than double, like, MSRP.
Yeah, I found that one at one store, and it was my consolation prize. Yep.
I'm holding out for the inevitable, like, Beskar armor, like, when they do. I really can't stand that, like, first couple episode armor. I just can't stand how ugly it looks. Yeah, I just don't like it. Even the Black Series figure I had, I put it like back in the packaging, and I plan on reselling it.
I did the same thing, but it was just because I had that white day 1 box, so like I got like $80. I got $80 for it, even though it was open. Hilarious.
Oh, yeah, I have the carbonized version, which I know is not as rare as the white box, but like I said, ever since I got the Beskar armor one from like the last wave of Black Series, I'm like, okay, I don't need the first season one anymore. But yeah, Star Wars collecting. You know, one thing I think is really interesting. Just I promise, folks, we'll get into actual topical stuff and not just Chris and I talking about the state of collecting Star Wars crap. You know what thing of Star Wars merchandise I'm kind of surprised that like I can't find anywhere after seeing it clog shelves in September? It's that like role-playing Darksaber. That is nowhere to be. I cannot find that.
I can't find it either. I wanted to find it after Russ went on about like how it looked just like the one from Power Rangers.
That was
I want to be like, I'll prove you wrong.
That was me.
Louisiana man.
There's tons of it over here.
Wait,
every Toys R Us has like 20.
Really?
Just sitting around, yeah.
That was something I found at every single, like back in September, like every Target and Walmart I went to, I found those. Now those are like, you cannot find, I still find Rise of Skywalker, like Kylo Ren and Rey sabers, but like I cannot find the Darksaber anywhere. Like
it's
that's
weird. It's weird that it'd be a popular Christmas present for kids because it's like it's really not in the show. Like it's in the show at the end of season 1 for a few seconds. So it's like how does a kid want something like that?
I don't even think it's kids. I think it's honestly adult collectors that are going after that. Because like think about it, like I grew up with all those like Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, like $20 Hasbro lightsabers. And this is like the first time they basically had a brand new design that they never did before. And I could see a lot, like I was even tempted to buy it until like I looked at the giant pile of like lightsabers I have and I'm like, no. I can't justify $30 on this. And I don't think it's kids. I really don't think
you could get rid of the Scream Saber and make some room.
I never bought that. I only went to stores and screamed at it for 15 seconds at a time. I mean, the memes were real. The product stayed on the shelf though every single time after I handled it. That's how COVID got spread, folks. We are responsible. We had all of our listener go around and sit there, manhandle those things, and that's how the germs infected everybody.
It's true. All right, so we've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Like, isn't this the first time it's officially been announced?
No, it's been.
Why am I the one getting this show back on track? That's weird.
It's the first time for everything, right?
I know.
It was announced with Ewan McGregor and Kathleen Kennedy on stage. I forget.
Wasn't it like Celebration 2019?
Maybe it was, yeah.
But McGregor will be back, also joined by Hayden Christensen as Vader. So if they meet each other again, I'm going to be violently angry.
They're going to.
No.
And you know what Kathleen Kennedy said about that show?
Zenger, don't you mean no?
Do you? I love the Doppler effect on that. But she in that presentation, I believe she said that it will be the rematch of the century, which is so troubling in a variety of ways.
Okay, so they are just ignoring the fact that there's an original trilogy now, I think.
Well, they're ignoring like how Revenge of the Sith. Like, I mean, as far as Lucas was concerned, he had all he wanted to say about Anakin and Obi-Wan from the end of Episode 3 to A New Hope. Like, he tried to wrap that up with Episode 3. I don't think he would have ever gone back and like muddied that a lot more. And it's like I could have believed they wouldn't have much interaction with each other, but when she calls it the rematch of the century, it's like, oh my God, what are they going to do? It's crazy.
A presence I haven't felt since 8 years ago, where they forced me to retcon myself back into this shit. Anyways, I'm going to go beat up an old space wizard real quick. That's what they're going to put into the new remasters of New Hope.
Well, and then also, but the fact that Hayden's even in it means that they're going to find excuses for him to get the mask off.
Okay. I agree with Chris. It's funny. I was at work Thursday night, and one of the guys I work with is a big Star Wars person, and he was like,
"Are you looking in the mirror again?"
No. No, I think it's funny. There's actually a different person at my work. He's a manager, and he has like 3 Star Wars tattoos on his forearms. Yet I am definitively known as the Star Wars person. That delights me. That like that's all it takes is just, again, I just go into the room and it's like Star Wars. Everyone just kind of hovers around me. Anytime something happens in The Mandalorian, someone just automatically just like they seek me out and they're like, "So why did this happen?" And I'm like, "You have to understand. Like, I thought the Empire was gone." And I'm like, "It's the Imperial remnant." They're like, "Who's Thrawn?" And I'm like, "Oh God, this is gonna be a 40-minute dissertation."
It's funny how I thought the Empire was gone is like literally a line that occurs multiple times in the series.
Oh no, I got a better one the other day. I got somebody that's like, but that is like the baby version of Yoda. Like he will grow up to be Yoda, and I'm like, for like you think that is the character Yoda, not just. And they're like, yeah, that's why everyone calls it Baby Yoda, right? And I'm like, oh, and they're like, this takes place before all the movies, right? And I'm like, oh, I don't know where to start with this discussion.
It's almost as if Disney didn't think about these things before they put them into motion with their cynical cash grab idea.
I mean, listen, like if you're watching this show and you literally see in an episode the second Death Star blowing up and you still aren't confused about where it takes place in the timeline, like I don't care that you're confused.
You stop drinking when you're watching the episode.
Yeah, just stop. Just keep eating popcorn and watching it and making them have great viewership numbers. Like I'm not answering your questions. Yeah, exactly.
Don't come to me with your questions that make my brain like hurt a lot. Speaking of making my brain hurt.
Wait. I was like, I get back to the point about the Darth Vader and Obi-Wan rematch thing. Before I
want to move on.
Discussion. No, because I gotta get my 2 cents in here because I was right about something, and I actually have it on recording. That's the best part about doing this podcast now is that when I make predictions about how Disney's going to do dumb things, I can actually go back and point to specific episodes and be like, "There it was, folks. I was right." Going back to my story about work, like there was a guy I work with. He was feeding me all this information throughout the night. And he's like, oh, like they say, like the Obi-Wan series is confirmed. And I'm like, yeah, we've heard this before. He's like, no, but like Darth Vader's going to be in it. And they say it's going to be the rematch of the century. And like, much like Chris said, like I felt like this giant pit in the like bottom of my stomach. I'm like, oh God, are they really that stupid? Are they really going to ruin like A New Hope? Are they going to do that? And then like I read the stuff, like I saw the stuff that Kathleen Kennedy said and like what Deborah Chow has said. And I'm like, oh God. And I know exactly who to blame for this. I know exactly who to blame for why they're making this decision. Nope. Okay, Chris remembers this. I'm not sure if Zenger does. Remember like a year and a half ago, we did an episode on this internet thing that went viral in the Star Wars community called Scene 38 Reimagined?
Oh, I love that.
That is the exact reason why we are getting rematch between Vader and Obi-Wan. That is the exact reason why, because they saw that stupid thing online got a bunch of traction, and they feel that's what get people excited. That's going to get fans in their late 50s, early 60s excited. For some reason, they think that's what people want, and that's the sort of crap they're gonna pump into this. And like Chris said, we're going to devalue the original trilogy in the process. We're going to devalue Revenge of the Sith's ending at the same time. Because it's low hanging fruit, and it's gonna be something that trends on Twitter for a couple hours the morning that episode or that happens debuts, and everyone gets to go home happy, except for the people who actually care about 40 plus years of lore.
So what if they have it to where because this is supposed to be a limited series, right?
That it's a limited series until they see how much money it makes them.
Well, I was about to say, what if the end of it is a rematch of the fight on the Death Star? Like, it's reshot and everything. But it's them both digitally aged up and Hayden Christensen wandering around in a suit of armor so he can feel good about himself.
Could you imagine if
that's what they do instead?
Could you imagine if they implied that, like, when we were cutting away to Luke, Han, and Leia in the Death Star, the fight just got way more intense for the brief moments we weren't watching.
I in my headcanon, that's what happened. Like they're both doing flips and stuff, and like so doing all the weird prequel stuff all over the place.
So unsettling. Oh my God!
You know what? I'd be down for it, because if they do anything else, I will be violently angry.
Like if they do something so literal as like have Obi-Wan literally go to the Death Star so that it's like funny when Vader says you shouldn't have come back. Like, oh my God, is that basic and stupid?
Well, I'm like, what does Vader go to Tatooine and is like, oh, he's here, let me go defeat him, and then leaves, and then is randomly like, oh, we're over Tatooine.
That's the thing. Vader can't come.
That is my home.
Vader can't go to Tatooine. That would make A New Hope so silly. So like Obi-Wan's got to leave Tatooine.
He's been to Tatooine before, I think, in the comics. Yeah, he has, because he's talked to Jabba and stuff in the comics.
Okay, but like he can't go there in the sense of looking for Obi-Wan.
Because what he goes like in his TIE Fighter directly by that moisture farm and be like, "Huh, that's the moisture farm that my would it be stepfather? Yeah, stepfather owns. Huh. I guess I shouldn't check out what's going on there." Shows Luke sitting there in like some weird Star Wars like tricycle, riding it in the sand, going,
Well,
"Ooh, a TIE Fighter."
I mean, it's kind of it is in Empire and Jedi where that like you see that Vader does have a separate agenda from the Emperor, and he does keep stuff from him. Because like it's sort of baked into that idea, like that conversation in the Empire Strikes Back, even in both versions after they changed it, where it kind of like when the Emperor brings up Luke, it kind of sounds like Vader's playing dumb. Like it's like it seems like he already knew something, but you know what I mean when he's
want me to spoil some fun for you?
Yeah, sure.
In the comics, it is pointed out that it's before Empire. Vader gets none other than Boba Fett to go find out who was the pilot that took out the Death Star.
See, I'm okay with that.
He finds out the name, goes to Vader, tells him the name, and Vader like gets angry and breaks a ton of stuff.
Right, but like
with the Force, he doesn't move; he just stands there and it shatters a ton of stuff.
But you know, in the delivery of the lines in Empire, it kind of seemed to me like he wanted to feign ignorance about it. Maybe that's my imagination, but I always kind of felt that way.
But your imagination is made canon now by me saying that the comics covered that.
Right.
None other than Boba Fett himself was the one who delivered said message.
Who's now turning out to be just, he's grown so much morally. He's like a real good guy now.
He's a real and different individual
he's getting really wholesome.
And that took 6 hours out of their time on hunting this child to go get his armor repainted.
Listen, no, they didn't. Queel built a new hovering tram in like 3 hours. The guy has enough time to respray paint his armor. He's probably got the paint on the ship somewhere.
And why would he have never done that before?
Exactly. Thank you.
That's fine, except for when you think about how crappy it actually looked by this point. Like when Cobb Vanth had it, like some of the chest was like you're just straight seeing the metal. Like the paint's like.
Oh, but I mean, he looked like a dreamboat in it, so he could have worn whatever and it would have been fine. I just love the fact that there's still a ding in the helmet.
That's how you know it's the same one.
What hit that helmet?
It was in Clone Wars. Yeah.
That's not canon anymore.
But isn't there another thing where, like, in episode 2, like, the dent, like, shows up, like, right before Jango dies?
You are implying that I watch episode 2, so I will ignore that statement.
I feel like they tried to show the dent happening in episode 2, but it's like a blink and you'd miss it kind of thing.
It's there if you want it to be there, from what I remember. Like, if you choose for it to be there at that moment, sure. But
it's like literally right before he dies. I think. But yeah, I think that's a thing.
Whatever. But yeah, Kenobi series, I don't care. It reminds me very much of the Last of the Jedi books. I think I've mentioned that they were a bunch of like young adult books. And the very first book is about how like Obi-Wan seeks down Fierce Olin, who became like one of the founding members of the rebellion in like Legends. And he leaves Tatooine. That's like I said, I don't care on that level. I just don't know how you make it compelling. I think if you do Obi-Wan, it has to be kind of like old man hermit in the desert. To bring Vader into it is so misguided, unless you basically have like Vader like propaganda stuff, or like you make Vader almost like the B storyline, as crazy as that sounds.
You know what, Zach? I like where you're going with this. I'd be fine with that. Just have Vader doing Vader stuff and Obi-Wan doing Obi-Wan stuff, and then they never meet.
It's wishful thinking when it's being hailed as the rematch of the century.
The rematch scary. That never happened, because isn't that the biggest rematch we could have?
But that's the thing, though, is that like you do have some people in there that understand like Star Wars isn't just simply a cow to like constantly milk. Like if you're Cowboy Hat Man, and he has to be in on a lot of these meetings, he has to be there for this. And it's like, how do you like? how do you do rematch of the century without basically doing it like how, like the most cynical way possible is how we're imagining it right now? Like, how's there a way for them to market rematch of the century without pissing off fans?
Okay, listen, man. One, like Cowboy Hat Man, I like.
I don't think he's involved with this one.
He's not really, I don't think, but
he's there though. He's there in the sense of like I would imagine he looks at a lot of stuff and he gives not direct approval, but I would imagine that he probably signs off on things from a distance.
Right.
Like I don't know, like I can't see them doing like enough like verbatim Scene 38 reimagined. I think this is just marketing. If everybody remembers, like this Obi-Wan show had a completely different showrunner like a year and a half ago, and they really threw everything out. And so
yeah, because they were real close to starting production, weren't they? And then it got pushed off. Like I heard they were building sets and stuff like a couple years ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So like when they say rematch of the century, I don't know what it is that they would be doing. Like that's the thing, is that like I can't see a 10-year older, like, I don't know, Chris, again, you too, Zenger, like we've all joked, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series is going to be the Mythos statue, and that's it. So, like, can you imagine that verse? Like, imagine taking your Sideshow Collectibles Hot Toys Mythos Obi-Wan and having it fight your Hot Toys Darth Vader. Like, is that compelling? Like that, the idea of that doesn't get me excited as a Star Wars fan. Because,
almost as compelling as this week's episode of Mandalorian that we have mentioned not whatsoever.
We've talked about repainting the armor. That's in the episode, so we dipped our toe in the water.
I guess we'll get to it eventually for those who are eagerly listening.
Question mark. That's the thing, though. Like, I'm not excited about that. Like, I don't care. We already got to see, like, again, when Revenge of the Sith came out, I was 12 years old. I remember ever since, like, 2000, like, reading, like, websites on the internet, hearing about, like, Obi-Wan and Anakin's duel on the lava planet, and always being like, oh, man, like, can't wait for that to happen. And for all intents and purposes, like, the fandom never really complained about the duel on Mustafar, right?
No.
Right, Chris? Like, did the fandom ever complain about the Obi-Wan versus Anakin duel?
I do remember a little bit about like the parts where like that big piece falls over the waterfall and Anakin jumps like 100 feet. Like I do remember hearing a little bit of shade about that, but other than that, not really.
But like it was never like at large, the fandom never complained about how Darth Vader, quote unquote, pre-suit got burned by lava. Like nobody ever complained about the duel. Any sort of, like, in a way that, like, the same way people complained about the Phantom Menace being like bad. Like there was never one of those things that everybody rallied around. Well, the media portrayed as rallied around.
Right. Yeah. Like generally much more positively received. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's considered the second best duel in the saga after the Duel of the Fates, because like it's to me, I think it's better than Duel of the Fates because there's actual emotional substance behind it. But it's the idea that, like, I don't know, it's rematch of the century for no other reason than it's a marketing line. It's like there's nothing you can't top the duel on Mustafar because
I hope that's all it is.
Like it's just marketing, it's nothing more than that.
Yeah, because I think hopefully it's literally just about the fact that they knew they were announcing Hayden being on the show, and it's a fun line to throw in when you're announcing that Hayden's going to be part of it. Hopefully that's all it is.
But this is the weird thing about bringing Hayden Christensen back, is that, like, not everybody, a lot of people want him back in The Last Jedi as a Force ghost. They didn't do that. And I think even Rian Johnson came out a couple of weeks ago and was like, oh, we considered putting him in the Octo tree on fire scene as opposed to Yoda. And then, like, everyone's like, oh, man, like we're going to sit there, get him in the Rise of Skywalker during Force Ghost Parade, and we got a voiceover. And I know the conjecture is that, like, they filmed a bunch of that stuff and we're never going to see it. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, to finally bring Hayden Christensen back just to put him in the suit, it's like I know Chris probably remembers it. I don't know if you do, Zenger, but on the original trilogy, like, DVD box set, like, they had that big feature about how they went out of their way to put Hayden into the suit for the ending of Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
And because he's like 4 inches shorter than, like, David Prowse or something. And, like, I just don't get.
And he begged George Lucas apparently to do it.
Yeah, so like if you're gonna bring Hayden back, bring him back as Anakin Skywalker. Like if they're gonna do flashbacks, then by all means. Like if they're going to give us like actual live action The Clone Wars, then like by all means, that I could be excited.
Oh my gosh, you can have live action Ahsoka in there now, technically.
I know, with awkward head tentacles and everything. It's gonna be great.
And she doesn't look like she's aged a day since the Clone Wars, which will just make
Zack,
everyone confused.
She looks older in the flashbacks than what she does in the actual TV show at the time. That's the fun part of all that.
Perfect.
But that's the thing. Like, if Hayden's coming back so we can have flashbacks to the Clone Wars era, then by all means, that would be a lot of fun. But to have again, Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader rematch seems horribly misguided.
So onto Rangers of the New Republic.
Yes.
Oh no,
yes,
we already went over that.
The second best decision of the show, of this announcement.
No, we've already went over it. It's just going to be Boba Fett the show. It's just a misleading title.
Rangers of the New Republic. I don't even know. Like, is this another fighter pilot like thing, or is this going to be like Cara doing the show? I'm sorry, Marshall doing the show.
I'm thinking the latter, and they basically said that it takes place during the Mandalorian, and it has like a shared conclusion. So I'm guessing like the end of season 4 of the Mandalorian is going to tie in with the end of this limited series in some way, where you get part of the story in this show and the rest in the Mandalorian. That's kind of what they said in the description.
Doesn't it also tie into the Ahsoka series as well?
Well, presumably that would be at the same time. And then when you think about it, you also have like the Cassian show, the Lando show, and Obi-Wan probably all take place around the same time. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see some overlap there too, just because they won't be able to help themselves.
Well, Obi-Wan takes place during the original trilogy era.
Well, it said 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. And the movie Solo is 7 years after Revenge of the Sith. So like the Lando series is probably pretty close to that.
Yeah, he was saying the Obi-Wan, Andor, and
Lando. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
And Lando
those Rangers and Rangers.
Those three are pretty close.
And then Ahsoka, Rangers, and Mando all share like.
Yeah, they're later.
They didn't give us any details on Lando. We don't even know. They literally just are like Lando series.
And nobody cheered.
Yeah, they didn't even like. I mean, I think it's just like an internal corporate ego thing that they like. They feel indignant about the reception of Solo, and they just demand to like tie up some of those loose ends and act like it was a success. So like, I think that's all that's going on there, because like they just had ideas they wanted to play out, and there's what other format are they going to do it in? I don't want it. I'm good, but like I don't need to see why Darth Maul had a different gang before he died.
But that's the thing, though, is that like if they were to do like a criminal syndicate show, like I'm like on board for that. Like that's the thing. Like I'm not on board in the sense of, like it's not what I would do if I was in charge, but at least I'd be like, okay. But like that's the thing that's fascinating about this like investors like call is that like nothing
just throw nonsense around.
Excited. Yes, exactly. Nothing about this got me excited as a Star Wars fan. I'm just like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I guess, like, I would imagine at least half of these projects will never see the light of day. They'll just kind of dissipate into the ether from which they came. But, like, especially when they have no release dates. Like, nothing says we don't know what we're doing than not giving a release date. Like, it's really easy to say,
correction.
like, oh, like,
Bad Batch has release date of 2021.
Well, yeah, because they actually gave us substance of that.
They also gave us Patty Jenkins flying an X-wing and roller skating.
No. We're gonna talk. No. I have a lot of problems with that video. We will get to it.
Oh, same.
That was probably the most awkward announcement for anything in like major media in a while.
And you could, man, it looked like somebody. You could almost see the executive like pulling her arm, like get her to do that. Like these aren't like, I feel like a director like that is the last person who wants to do some like crap like that. You know what I mean? Like it was probably in the deal.
Okay. We're delving into this right now.
Don't you want to talk about a droid story or Visions, which I think they mixed up with the Marvel announcements?
Once they actually tell us what any of this stuff is about, like half of the projects announced, they did not even give descriptions of. Like the Visions thing is like anime Star Wars, and I was like, we have that. It's called Star Wars Clone Wars. It's not going to be any better. They're like Star Wars, a droid story. I'm like, that's like 9 movies already. We don't need that. They're like Rangers of the New Republic. Don't even give a description about that. I'm like, okay. Taika Waititi Star Wars. You don't even have a title. Fantastic. And they just keep going through this. And it's like, you can't, like, Lando. Which Lando is it? Lando. Moving on. And it's like, no. Like, this feels almost as pathetic as what DC Warner Brothers did, like, in 2014, where they announced, like, Cyborg, Aquaman, Cyborg 2, Aquaman 2, Flashpoint. And it's like,
how many of those have we gotten? None.
Exactly. That's what this. Like, I'm not sure how many people remember this, but this was back when I was really on the Marvel hype train. This was like October of 2014, because Disney owns the El Capitan Theater in Los Angeles or Hollywood. They did this big thing where they had Kevin Feige come out on stage. All the Marvel like actors were there, like Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, like, and they announced their entire, I think, like Phase 2 and like Phase 3 slate, and they made like this really big fan event. They gave out posters, and it created hype because like they announced everything up until, and I'm not making this up, the Inhumans movie that was coming in 2020.
Oh, I remember that.
And yes, and like guess what? Like a month later, on like the investors call for like Warner Brothers, they did something not even remotely similar. They literally just dumped a bunch of release dates and movie announcements with like no fanfare and no details, nothing specific. Like pretty much just like, oh, Aquaman, Aquaman 2, Cyborg, Cyborg 2. And that's what they did. And that's what this feels like. It feels like just a dump of information, which is what Disney's been doing a lot lately with Star Wars. It's the exact same thing I was complaining about last year at this time, that we got Mandalorian, Jedi Fallen Order, Rise of Skywalker, what's it called, Star Wars Resistance, all in the span of like a month. And they just dump it. Like, they don't care. Like, it's like, and you look at what they're doing with Marvel. Everything that was at that Marvel part of the investor call was laid out. It had footage. They described what they were doing. They're like, okay, this is how this is going to lead into this. This is how we're going to do that. Oh, here's Ms. Marvel, Kamala Khan. They laid it out so neatly. And you just have Disney, and they're just like, here you go. And they turn the fire hose on. And like, after like the initial 30 seconds of hype, you're sitting there just kind of like soaked, and you're like, yay? It's like, I don't get it. And like, getting this back to the point of the Patty Jenkins video, like, again, the story about like her father being like a fighter pilot who died like while he was flying, like 100% respect to that. My condolences. But like, that video is the definition of cringeworthy, because like it begins and I'm like, what the hell are we looking at? Like, you see just like cracks in asphalt. And I'm like, is this supposed to be like a shot? Like, is this Kylo Ren flying the TIE silencer again from the Rise of Skywalker teaser? And then you see Patty Jenkins like awkwardly like rollerblading. And I'm like, what the hell is this? Then like she parks in the middle of like a landing strip on an airfield. And I'm like, that's not a good place to park. This is why we have parking lots. Yeah. And then like we see her awkwardly like sit in her trunk as she like starts to take her pants off.
Of her Tesla.
Like, what kind? Yes, of her Tesla.
And
like,
oh man, the line delivery is just so bad, and she's just hobbling through it.
Yes, and the whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, is she taking her pants off? I'm like, what is going on here? I'm like, there's kids watching at home, and I'm like, what is this? Then at the very end, we see her like in the whole time, like she's giving her spiel, she's like reading off a cue card, and then like we see her like the camera eventually pulls back, and we see that like she was taking her pants off to put on like third rate like cosplay X-Wing fatigues, as we see her awkwardly walk toward like an AR X-Wing. And they're like December 2023 Rogue Squadron.
Oh, so like, so many things about that. Oh my god!
It's like, and the whole time I'm like, what? I'm like, this felt like a bad car commercial for like a car I can't buy. This is why I imagine like, it's like it did not get me excited. I felt sorry for everybody involved more than
It's a
anything
weird
else.
Tesla commercial. They really don't focus on the car.
Well, I was got in an exchange with a guy on if you ever like feeling the Jones for some not my Star Wars type of community comedy, you can join that Rebel Force Radio Facebook group where you just see people like it's a half decent show, but oh my god, is that Facebook group full of idiots. So like I was arguing with a guy in there because he was like
hard line we're taking.
Oh, it is. Come at me. I'm in the group. I'm in that group. You guys can find me. But like this guy was like, "Oh, I'm so excited to finally get a Rogue Squadron movie." I'm like, "Did you notice
It's
that
not
it takes
gonna be
place?"
what you want.
Yeah, did you notice it takes place after episode 9? And the guy's like, "Nuh-uh, she got in a regular X-wing at the end of that clip." I'm like, excuse me? Like, do you think that clip is telling you anything about this movie at all? Like, that's something they had sitting around, or it was AR, like Zack was saying. Like, that's just something they had. Like, that's not from the movie. They have more. This movie has more development time than The Force Awakens had. Like, they're not there yet. They don't know what this movie is yet. Like, I don't like that's like
Yep.
look how much Rogue One changed like during production. Like, they don't know what this movie is exactly going to be yet. And if they're calling it Rogue Squadron, and like fans of a certain age like have a lot of association with that, when they say that, you think of something very strongly, and that's not what you're gonna get. So I don't know.
Exactly. I think so this is gonna be me playing the like Nintendo 64 game for 2 hours.
Yeah. Like, how the biggest tell that that's not where you're gonna get is that like that Squadrons game wasn't even that. Like I
still
need to play my copy of that.
Yeah, but I mean, but what I'm saying is they couldn't even recreate. They couldn't even recreate the magic of Rogue Squadron with a modern X-wing versus TIE Fighter game. So like they're not going to do it with this
thing in the world. Make a flight simulator that is Star Wars. How hard is this to do?
Listen, like there is some fun stuff with Squadrons where just like sort of you can allocate the energy to the different systems of the vehicle, but I know I didn't love it. I know I didn't love it because I haven't fired it back up since I finished the campaign, which was awful. So that I'm just saying, like, if they didn't understand what Rogue Squadron was to make that, and it's debatable whether they were trying to make it more evocative of earlier games like X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and stuff like that, fine. But like, I don't think they nailed it there. This movie is going to be nothing to do with that. It's going to like, I'm sure there'll be a few good X-Wing scenes, but you're going to have to sit through a lot of nonsense to like enjoy that stuff. And I don't know, like it's just, they should call it that because that has so much association with it in the fan base, and there's no chance it's going to be anything like that, especially once you say it's after episode 9.
But Chris, Rogue Squadron has brand awareness, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it connects to the property.
Yeah, I mean,
people recognize the name
to some degree. I mean, the last game was probably 17 years ago. Out of 3 games.
That was a while ago.
Yeah,
I remember that.
But here's the thing. When you told me Solo, I instantly went to, oh, cool, we're going to be getting a Red Solo Cup movie.
Damn it.
And then I went, and there was some story about someone who was obviously not Han Solo.
Han Alono.
Yes, very much so.
I don't know. Like, that's like... that's the thing. I don't want to be down on this because, like, I am on the hype train for Star Wars. Like, obviously, the whole point of this conversation before we start delving into this news is, like, we are still hungry for Star Wars stuff. It was just that, like, it's like they've done this one too many times where they promise something, like Chris said, like, this movie has more development time than probably any other Disney-era Star Wars film. And it's as we know, development hell is a very real thing when it comes to Disney Star Wars. And like, I wouldn't be surprised that 2 years from now we hear that Patty Jenkins leaves this film. I would be almost shocked if we don't get that headline.
That'd be a rough headline for them because, like, I think they.
No, it's no.
I
They've
think that, but I think
they've lost a bunch of people.
Yeah, but they take pride in Patty Jenkins. Like they're like they're like they're proud that she's doing it. I think it'd be a bigger deal than losing Lord and Miller because there was no one like. People who understand the film industry and think that Lord and Miller got a raw deal were making videos about how crappy it was that they got fired. But you will have casuals making videos with rage about Patty Jenkins getting fired.
But like, we also have to realize this. Think about think about it. This time last year in the Star Wars fandom, it was, oh man, like Rise of Skywalker. Like, what the hell is going to happen with all this? Like, that's just Star Wars fandom. Never mind the current like movie landscape that we're in right now. What will it look like 3 years from now? And that's the thing. That,
is anyone else just seeing flames?
Yes. But like, remember, Wonder Woman 1984 comes out in a couple of weeks. And
does it?
You guys, well, yeah, it's going to be on HBO Max.
Until I am physically able to watch that from beginning to end, I don't believe nothing.
But like, okay, Zenger, and I don't know how much Chris has his finger on the pulse of this sort of stuff, but like, is there any word on how good Wonder Woman 1984 is going to be? Like, is there any like gauge of like, has anybody seen this yet?
Nope.
I'm not on social media.
Nope, I have seen nothing. Just this it's gonna be good thing, and I've already predicted the entire story of the movie too.
I think the standard for it to get a positive review at this point is if it comes out.
The lowest bar ever set for a DC movie.
But yes and no, because like, think about it. Like, I would imagine there's no way Patty Jenkins is going to make Wonder Woman 3 between now and 2023. So like, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to say her stock is going to diminish. She's blockbuster female director. Like, that's always going to write her enough of a check that she never has to worry. Like, when it comes to like the virtue signaling media. But like, I don't know though. Is that like, is she a huge get? She made one blockbuster female-led superhero movie, and everybody forgets that like summer 2017 was a really bad summer for movies. Like, there really wasn't anything else out there. Like the Marvel movies were Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Spider-Man Homecoming, which were both kind of meh comic book movies.
Zach, you're conflating two things, whether she's actually good. You're conflating whether she's actually good or not versus the perception. And like, they're concerned, like, the perception is that she's good. I haven't seen Wonder Woman. I don't care for superhero movies.
It's Captain America, but with woman, like with Wonder Woman. And that's what it is. Like, that's the thing, is that like, sure, they'll get their headlines. I'm not arguing that. But they could have hired any female director and they would be getting their headlines. And that's the thing, is like, there's like, oh God, remember, everybody forgets Patty Jenkins. I think it was Patty Jenkins. Patty Jenkins worked on, I think it was Thor: The Dark World, and they fired her, and Natalie Portman got really angry. And like, everybody forgets that. Like, Ava DuVernay was working on Black Panther, and like was going to work on Black Panther, and she was like, nope. And like, do we not forget that when it comes to Disney Star Wars, there have been more directors fired than have actually seen their films to completion? Like, do we need, like, we not forget that? Like,
but you might also have this problem where I think it's kind of what happened with Spielberg and that new Indiana Jones, where like the dealing with Disney and Lucasfilm can be just during this pre-production process, and nailing down the story is probably one of the most unpleasant experiences ever for these people. And it's like the Spielberg thing. Like, I feel like it's common knowledge that it was creative differences over the script why he left the project. And you could see somebody like Patty Jenkins, like, whether you buy into the hype of her as this amazing director or not, if you're in year 2 of development, you haven't started rolling yet, and it just seems like you've put a huge chunk of your life into this project that the suits are holding up, and you're just spinning your tires dealing with them, and you're starting to lose faith in the end product. You see how these things fall apart. Like, it's kind of reminds me of like when Guillermo del Toro was supposed to do The Hobbit, and I feel like he literally said something like it's taking up too much of his life and he doesn't care about it anymore, and that's pretty much how it fell apart. Like I think I have the same feeling about Spielberg and Indiana Jones, and you could see something like that happening if they just can't get through to the people who have to sign off on the concept.
That's what I mean. I don't see Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron happening. Like, I do not see myself 3 years from now sitting in a theater for that movie. I just don't. I don't see it happening for many reasons. And I think the current state of the world is just probably one amongst many factors why. I just like.
So flash forward to 3 years from now with Zack going, I was sitting in the theater ready to go for this movie.
Okay, but that's another thing too I want to bring up, and I'm so glad that we've been doing a podcast for almost 4 years now where all of this is on record, was that back in the aftermath
for the lawsuits.
In the aftermath of The Rise of Skywalker, there was an episode I did discussing the box office of The Rise of Skywalker, which anytime I do a box office episode, the downloads tank. But I
think I was sleeping during that episode.
You weren't even involved, so you probably were.
You know what? I was on the call. I just was asleep.
Yes. And what I said was The Rise of Skywalker was a financial disappointment, and because of this, they are going to go wholeheartedly into the Disney Plus. I said Star Wars is not going to be a film franchise anymore. It's going to be a streaming franchise. And sure, the current state of the world certainly hasn't bucked that at all. If anything, it's made it more conducive. But once again, I was proven right. Think of all the Marvel stuff that's coming down the pike when it comes to movies. Doctor Strange, Black Widow. Like, Black Widow is still a theatrical release. They aren't putting that on Disney Plus. There's no way. There's no way they're going to put down streaming. Cause it's the Marvel machine. They're not going to do that. They'll hold it indefinitely, but they're not going to put it on streaming. Or if they do, it's going to be some ridiculous amount of money.
$5.
The point being is that, like, look at all the stuff that was announced. We got 2 movie announcements. One was vague. The other was incredibly vague to the point where all we got was a weird font of the Star Wars logo, which we haven't even talked about the Taika Waititi thing, which literally was just a picture of his face with, like, the Star Wars logo done, like, in Schoolhouse Rock font.
Almost. Oh, God, I can't believe I'm the one bringing this up. Almost similar to, like, the art style of the holiday special.
I know. I picked up on that immediately, which scares the ever-living daylights out of me.
Is he going to do a new holiday special?
Well, that's a success of the Lego one. Why not? The point being is that, like, the Marvel machine is still plugging ahead with, like, 3, if everything is able to rebound next year, 3 to 4 movies a year, and Star Wars is being boiled down to 1 movie every 3 years. And I think that just tells you that, like, Star Wars is not their priority. It's only their priority if it's continuing to do whatever they want it to do. And that's the thing that it's like, again, this is another weird thing I picked up on the sizzle reel for the Calrissian Endor show. Like, I know I've said this a couple of times, every single time for, like, Force Awakens and Last Jedi, they always
the show's officially called Endor now, just so you know.
It's the Calrissian Endor show. I know last week you guys were all sitting there making comments about Calrissian, and none of you could get the wrong name correct. So, like, you're like, oh, what's his name? It's Calrissian, or it's Calrissian. And that's the thing. Or no, oh my god, no, it's oh my god, all these stupid fake names. It's Calrissian Endor, and it's oh my god, what did I call Cal Kestis? What did I call him?
I think it was just Calrissian as well.
Calrissian, yes. Yeah. They like that sound.
Cow.
Yes. And that's, like, the thing with all of this is that, like, I don't know what the point of any of it is, other than, I'm sorry, okay, this is the point I was getting with all this, was that, like, when it comes to these behind the scenes sizzle reel things, is that, like, when the Force Awakens one came out back in, like, what was it, spring, summer of 2015, it was real sets, practical effects. And then in 2017 for The Last Jedi, it was expect the unexpected, that clearly nobody heeded. And then for The Rise of Skywalker, it was it's like we want everyone to be satisfied. We want a satisfying conclusion. And the thing they did for Calrissian Endor in the scissor reel, which I thought was fascinating, they kept harping on this point that I'd really, and again, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, that I've not really seen anybody complain about when it comes to the Mandalorian. And it's something I just brought up in the last couple of weeks, was the fact that like, oh, what we're doing on this show is no different than how we treat a movie. The production of this is the same standard that we do on any Star Wars film. And like, I'm like, why are they harping on this when this really isn't like a ubiquitous complaint? Then like I watched the Mandalorian, like the latest episode, and it kind of dawned on me how small the scenes are when they're not like CGI sequences. Like if you watch the latest episode, every time it's not like a big action set piece, it feels like they're shooting it like in somebody's living room. And like, yes, they have a bunch of like people wearing stormtrooper costumes, which is great, not knocking that. But like, oh, like our climax of this episode takes place in a bar that's the size of probably your average sized living room. And I'm like, that's a really like again, everything, even like when we see Ming-Na Wen and Cara Dune talking, it just feels like they're just kind of like sitting off to the side. There's not like this vastness or grandeur that like we're used to visually seeing in any of the films. Like, say what you will about like The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker, but like the money is on the screen. Like you might not like what the films do, like on an artistic or creative level, but like there's never any point while you're watching those films you're like, oh, this looks cheap. Even I can't say that about The Force Awakens.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you understand what they're doing with the volume, especially, you do see how it sort of infects the production of the show. Obviously the exceptions to that are when they are actually using practical locations, kind of like if you go 2 episodes back, like the one where Fett first came back into it, like that's all just a real space, so it looks pretty good. But like there is a tendency to sort of do when you have those fully digitally rendered environments, like you do have a sort of feeling that the actor couldn't really interact with a lot of the stuff around them. Like you do notice that distance, and it does sort of inform some of the stylistic choices in terms of the shots. Like especially in season 1, you saw a lot of wide shots where the camera was like really low, almost to like sort of help blend that horizon line in the volume or something. I don't know, but you did see it come up a lot. So I kind of get that comment. There, it seems with the Calrissian Endor show, there, that little sizzle they did, they're sort of bringing back around the commentary to real sets, practical effects.
Which is weird, because like that's the thing. It's like I don't see anybody complaining about that outside of somebody like me who just likes to nitpick for giggles. But they're doing that again. Like that's the thing. Like there's even certain shots like when you see like on the Razor Crest, and like before it got blown up, and
oh no,
you would see, no. Pour one out for all the poor people that spent $350 plus tax on the HasLab. Like seriously, pour one. I love how that's become a meme. I love that. It's like when you it's like November 7th when you pre-order your HasLab Razor Crest. December so-and-so when it blows up at 4 a.m. in the morning. Like I love that so much. Like I've never felt so vindicated not buying a Star Wars product in my life. I've never felt like, whew, I'm like, you know what? Dodge that bullet.
I'm just excited that if Ellie did get me the Razor Crest Lego one, she's going to put it together, and I'm going to make sure she's watching an episode, so the second it gets destroyed, I'm going to run over and just kick it and be like, there, screen accurate.
Yeah.
But no, it's like when you watch, like when they would film the Mandalorian with Baby Yoda, like in the cockpit, and like Chris said, if you look at certain camera angles and placement, it just feels so small, and like you never got that same sort of vibe anytime during the sequel trilogy when they were in the Millennium Falcon. Like think about it. Like yes, the cockpit, the Millennium Falcon can seat 4, and the Razor Crest can fit 3. Am I right about that? Is it 3 or just 2?
Well, I think it's 3, but you know, like, see, I find it interesting that you're honing in on that specifically, because I feel like that's like the cockpit of the Razor Crest like is an actual set, and like they just sort of use the volume to like project space around it. So like I don't like. I'm more talking about stuff like when he first walks out on the planet in the first episode, and it's just literally like a 2D plane of ice, and there's like nothing.
Oh yeah.
And like and like the wall that Ahsoka is like yelling at the magistrate, like that whole exterior of that wall looked really weird to me, like very sort of empty.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I wasn't going to try to go to the first season because I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're still trying to find their footing.
Yeah.
You got to concede them some things. There is a learning curve, but like that's what I mean. Though, like even like you were mentioning when Boba Fett showed up, and we had them like we were joking, like I think last week you guys were joking about how like a bunch of just like joggers found them like in the middle of like a campground in California.
And well, that's the classic Star Wars fan film, like a bunch of idiots out in the woods hitting each other with sticks, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing is that like you look at that and like juxtapose that to like Pasana, and there's not even a comparison. Like it's the same thing. Like you're a desert location, and yet one feels infinitely more vast than the other. Where in reality, they should visually be almost identical. Like the vastness, like it's an open, wide desert, and you don't get that feeling because one is being shot on a TV budget. The other one is being shot on a movie budget. And like at the end of the day, like once the hype dies down for the Mandalorian and people stop like worshiping it, and we're on like our 5th season of Rangers of the New Republic, like people are going to look back and be like, like, you know what? It's going to be the same thing that happened to the prequels. People are going to look back on the sequel trilogy and be like, wow, like I wish they would go back to this sort of level, like where they actually pump the money into this stuff and didn't just make it like ubiquitous quality. Like this feels like Star Wars, like CW DC stuff. Like that's what this feels like. It feels like that, where it's like, okay, we're just churning this out because it's an IP people recognize, not because like, oh, we want to tell this story. And I get it. Like the sequel trilogy, outside of maybe The Last Jedi, was the only one that felt like a story that a specific filmmaker wanted to tell. But like at the end of the day, like Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker feel grand in scope, even if you don't like the films on any other level.
So what, and here it is, guys. We're an hour and 15 in. So what did you actually think of Chapter 15, Zach?
But Chris, we didn't talk about The Acolyte, the Disney Plus streaming series at the end of the High Republic era, despite the fact we don't even know what happens at the beginning of the High Republic era.
The High Republic, you know, it's like, could you guys not bend over backwards and start doing perpetual backflips in order to avoid giving us the Old Republic, please? That's all I have to say about that. But honestly though, like it's all like if I find it interesting. Like I get the impression you were less excited about this one than you were last week's episode, and I as far as I'm concerned, I feel like they should have a mutual appreciation audience. So that's interesting to me.
Oh, you mean Mandalorian episode?
Yeah.
Chapter, this one versus previous chapter?
Yeah.
No, I like this episode. I rewatched it right before we started recording, and there's a lot of cool stuff in it. Like I love the scene with Bill Burr and not Mandalorian driving their ship or cargo Star Wars 18-wheeler in, and you have like all the
Bill Burr was being
stormtroopers.
space racist.
Yes.
Well, it's more of a he's more hassling a religion than a race, but fair enough.
What is Mandalorian? We'll discuss it later.
It's a creed.
No, like that part where like they're driving in, all the stormtroopers are like saluting them and cheering them. Like I thought that was neat. Like you've never seen that before in Star Wars. Like that's the sort of stuff as a Star Wars fan I eat up because it's something I've never seen before. I've never thought of it before after being a fan of this franchise for 21 years. I love like that sort of stuff. Just tickles me. I wish the scene with the Imperial, whatever we're going to call him, do we know what rank he was? Not at RoboCop. He looked just like, oh God, who's the actor that plays RoboCop?
Peter Weller.
I'm going to help you real quick.
You. What?
He's the oh my God, I'm going to get this wrong, and people from Game of Thrones. He's the
Night King.
Thank you. I was going to say Lich King. Which I knew was wrong, but I was like, I'm going to die on this hill.
You can't really tell who that actor is under all that stuff.
You can't. Also, I thought it was weird that
what was his ranking? Do we know what his ranking was? Like he had the Imperial plates on, but
he was a lieutenant commander.
Was he?
I don't know. I'm just making up stuff.
You should have just gone with it and said that you looked it up because I'd have believed you. It's good.
All right, so we had Imperial Peter Weller, not Peter Weller, and like that little exchange was a lot of fun, but like it felt a little too like I don't know what it felt like somebody who was like scrambling to write dialogue 5 minutes before they started shooting because like they threw a bunch of Star Warsy nonsense in there. Yeah, I couldn't get the point of it. I'm like, what is like Bill Burr is like really good in that sequence. And not Peter Weller is just like rambling stuff off about like and just doing all this weird story, just like thinly veiled, like foreshadowing, like all the galaxy wants first and foremost is order. First
really, it's
thing
just
is order. And
yeah,
he
it's
looks
kind of
directly to the camera and says first order.
Yeah,
I
caught that.
That was unusually direct.
Yeah,
and I'm like, he gets shot in the chest. And I'm like, oh my god, this is so goddamn ham-fisted.
But that's what I like. That I really love this episode just because it's just fun, like assault on Imperial base action with like Slave One, like and seismic charges. So I didn't like it for any good reasons. I liked it for like the same reasons why Alien vs Predator 2 is good, but like
I want that as your the pull quote for this episode of
The
Mandalorian. It's good for the same reasons that Alien vs Predator 2 is good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Disney would eat those sort of reviews up, Chris.
That's a problem, but I did enjoy it. And but that scene with Bill Burr and that Imperial officer, it kind of bothered me that like we see Din Djarin and Bill Burr do a lot of dumb stuff over the course of 5 minutes. Like
yes.
Bill Burr tells him that it's going to scan his face. He tries to use it without taking the helmet off. Like, could you guys make some effort not to blow your cover inside an Imperial base, please?
Instantly.
And then he's like instantly like, well, let me just see if it works without doing what he told me to on the secret mission. And then not only that, but then the chance Bill Burr's just riling this guy up. And like, forget the fact that he shoots him, but like he starts getting argumentative with him about a battle while they're trying to get out of there. Like, what are like, it's just like, I don't believe the character would be that dumb. That's what bothered me. And also like when he conveniently when he shoots this guy, a few minutes earlier there was 100 stormtroopers out in that garage. Luckily, it's gone down to like 10.
They all went on their lunch break at the exact same time.
Yeah, but I mean, but my thought as soon as he shot him was like, there's literally 100 guys in the next room. That's an open door to that room. So what are you thinking, right? But then it just shows it, and it's like, oh, it's just like 4 or 5 guys there and a few outside.
Because it's a TV budget and they can't afford that.
Well, they did have all those guys there earlier, though. That's what I'm saying. And it's like, when did that happen?
But that's what I mean, though. Is like, because it was a CGI thing. They can only afford like probably half a day of shooting that.
I don't think that was CGI. Like all the stormtroopers I'm talking about when they got out of the tank.
Oh, well, you look at that like in the comp. Well, that's the thing. Like, sure, it probably wasn't, but it probably was like a dozen like 501st people, and they just shot them with like different angles and different sort of just like what? Not I want to say makeup, but just different like sort of like what's the word? Stuff on the armor to make it look different, like just dirt and crud.
I know, and it probably represents some like, and this is where I have a problem where it's like, is this me or is it me? Because like I seem to have the same issues with this kind of stuff. It's just the stuff that takes me out of it is just when a character does something that is just plainly stupid, and it's just like, is anyone else noticing this stuff? Is there something wrong with my mind that I just like can't get over stuff like that? I don't know, but I feel like it's easy writing fixes to just not do these things, and you could end up with the same result where you have the same action pieces and everything, but you didn't have to put in these moments that are just like, why did that happen?
Well, I'll push back on that because things like that I don't mind, because in my opinion, Bill Burr shooting not Peter Weller is the exact same action that Han Solo takes when they like turn the corner on the Death Star and he like starts chasing a group of stormtroopers down a hallway on the Death Star.
Right, like, but except for the fact that Bill Burr is currently successfully undercover and Han Solo was not.
But that's the thing, though. Like, there's no reason why Han Solo should be chasing Storm. The moment those stormtroopers like pull back, he should be running away with Leia and Luke. Like, there's no reason why he would go chasing a group of stormtroopers on an Imperial space station.
That's fair. That is one of those moments where the reason it doesn't seem ridiculous to me is because I've never known a time not knowing that moment. You know,
exactly.
It's grandfathered in. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But like, that's why I'm willing to forgive this. And like, that's the thing, is that like the whole episode like here is about like, it's another one of those, God, the bad guy can never stay the bad guy. The bad guy at worst can stay the anti-hero. And that's what Boba Fett is right now. It's like, oh, Bill Burr was kind of a jerk in the season 1 episode. And like, oh, now he's had a complete change of heart. Why? Because the script needs him to. And plus, Bill Burr's a pretty solid actor, we're learning because of this show. And it's like, okay, like he does. Like, he realizes, like, oh, what they're doing. We get a lot of Star Wars stuff about Operation Cinder, which I think is kind of miraculous. They actually reference that. I'm like, wow, we're actually going to reference the thing from the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign? Like, God, ever since the controversy about, like, loot boxes, we kind of ignored everything about that game in the fandom.
It's a better campaign than Squadrons.
Whoa!
That's not
controversial statement.
No, that campaign was solid. That's not saying that much.
Yeah. No, like I like the loot box controversy didn't do anything for me because I, unlike some people, like actually have the ability to not purchase loot boxes if I don't want to. So it's fine.
What kind of self-control do you have? Oh, wait.
It's called being an adult.
Got it.
No, I don't need to get the Supreme Court involved. I'm good. I just won't buy them.
Exactly, like an adult. But like, no, it's like I didn't mind it. No, this episode was solid. The thing about those, like, it didn't have that, like, God, decades worth of anticipation of seeing Boba Fett actually like in the armor doing his thing. Like that's
do that much.
No, this was. Dude, I love that. Like when he shows up with his armor and like he's just being Boba Fett, and I'm like, this is the thing. Again.
Go ahead.
No, like, okay, to get my thoughts on last week, because we never really talked about it that much. I don't think I talked about it, period. I thoroughly loved it, like, just because it's Boba Fett. Like, remember, like, at the end of the day, I am a simpleton just like everybody else. I just do a better way of just, like spicing it up with, like, fancy words and nerdy talk. Like, no, like, I had my Boba Fett figure, like, on my end table, and the whole time as I'm watching it, I'm like, God, this is incredible. I'm like, and even like how I know you referenced it last week, Chris, you're like, oh, Zack is like vehemently against like the redubbing of Boba Fett and Empire with Tamora Morrison. And I think the difference, and I kind of finally figured it out, is that like it comes down to like the idea versus the execution of it. It's kind of like Rey Skywalker. Like Rey Skywalker, the end of Rise of Skywalker as a concept is not a bad thing. The execution of it is awful. Having a woman come up to her being like, can I take your name, love? Rose Dawson. Like, no, that is horrible execution. It's stupid. But the idea of her being Rey Skywalker, I have no issue with. The same thing goes for Tamora Morrison getting redubbed in Empire. Would I prefer, like, scratchy voice Boba Fett? Of course. But, like hearing Tamora Morrison with the armor as he's, like, chasing the Iron Legion of Iron Man robots to Moff Gideon's ship. Like, I was like, and he's like, the Empire, they're back. And I'm like, oh.
Which I don't know why that bothers him.
Yeah,
but whatever.
I know you guys. I know you guys got into that last week, and I couldn't figure out why it bothered you. But whatever, to each their own. But like, that's the difference. It's like if you go back and like listen.
By the way, I got an answer to the question.
No.
Okay.
Shh, quiet. If you go back and go to the Tamora Morrison dialogue from Empire, like he's not being directed. He was literally given like an index card with the lines, and he's reading it in the flattest way possible.
I'm not going to lie. I kind of feel the same way about his delivery when he shows up in the previous episode and starts talking about his father and all that. Like, I on some level, I almost don't believe he knows what he's talking about in those lines. And like, am I saying I don't think he's a good actor? Maybe I am, but like, is it fun to see him? Absolutely.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Because remember, the normies watching this do not have any idea what they're watching. then I have people at my work, and I interact with a lot of people, like, and that's like her definition of normies. They are not into this at the same level that we are, and people who listen to this podcast are. And they come up to me and they ask me questions. They have no idea what Boba Fett is showing on his wrist gauntlet to Din Djarin and Found. They have no idea what that is. All they know is Boba Fett looks like the Mandalorian, and that's all it is. He looks like the army of not Boba Fett's from episode 3 of season 1. He looks like redheaded Boba Fett from like the 3rd episode of this season. Like, that's the thing. They have no idea what any of this is. They do not know who Boba Fett is. All they know is he looks vaguely similar to a guy in a movie they watched 3 or 4 years ago on Christmas Day with their family. Like, that's what it comes down to. Like, when they throw that sort of stuff in, it's just for people like us and others of our ilk on fan media to be like, oh my God, like, they're doing this. And even like in this week's episode where Din Djarin's going around like, Ming-Na Wen, you go down there. She's like, nah, I'm on ISB list. Cara Dune, she's like, He's like, Boba? He's like, I've got a feeling they might recognize this face. And it's like 99% of the normies are not going to get that reference.
Well, right. Yeah. Well, I mean, because it's like if you don't realize that he was the template for the clones, you might think, well, he's just a criminal who's been up to no good for years on end, and that's why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing that, like, I would imagine the vast majority of normies have not figured out, like what Zenger was saying about the idea that, like, oh, baby, this takes place before the prequels because it's Yoda as a baby. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is just, to the normies, this is Stranger Things season 3 to them. They watch it while they're bored. I had somebody else at work talk to me back with the second episode. Was it the second episode with all the spider creatures? And someone said something like, oh, like, why is this like an episode of like something? I forget what movie was it they referenced? They referenced something.
Was it Alien?
Like, oh, it might have been Alien. Someone's like, oh, it might have been Aliens. I don't know. But like somebody referenced something and like somebody else came walking by completely as a heard that as a non sequitur, but got it. And they're like, yeah, I thought that too during the episode. And I'm like, you people don't understand Star Wars. I'm trying to explain to them like what these creatures are. The fact that they're like Ralph McQuarrie, like, oh no, they compared it to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. That's what it was. They compared it to Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And they're like, oh, it's a ripoff of when Ron and them in the car, like in the Forbidden Woods outside Hogwarts. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm like, this is what? I'm like, these creatures have been like around, quote unquote, in Star Wars lore since like the late 70s.
Well,
going based off concept art.
Kind of. I mean, like, it was a sketch for Empire and then like a painting for a 1995 book. But you know, Ralph McQuarrie made them look, didn't seem like they were very threatening. Luke was just sort of hanging out and watching one of them like lay a bunch of eggs. So like they kind of made them into monsters and rebels, and they're sort of keeping with that theme.
But that's the thing I'm trying to say though, is that like, Chris, you were able to pinpoint exactly dates of all this stuff and be like, oh, this is like, you described that concept art almost as well as anybody could over like an audio medium. And yet a bunch of normies watching the second episode of season 2 were like, why is this ripping off Harry Potter Chamber of Secrets? And I think I've been asking this question ever since the inception of this podcast. Who is Disney making this? I can't even say movies for anymore. Who are they making this media for? They're making it for the normies out there. They're making it for the people who will watch the Patty Jenkins like Tesla commercial and retweet it because like, oh man, she's making this movie for her dad. She's making it for Paul. Like, I'm doing this for you, Paul. And like every day when she gets the set. And like, that's the thing. Is that like,
okay. just her getting on set and screaming that. I think you need to apologize on Twitter for that statement.
She just gets in the cockpit set and just starts screaming every morning to amp herself up. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, but again, I'm not saying this is a good thing or a bad thing. I'm letting the audience, the listener at home, decide that for themselves. I'm just, everything that came out of all these announcements, except for maybe the Bad Batch, which wasn't really an announcement, it was the actual like only piece of real footage we got out of all. It's the only concrete thing we got out of any of this.
Which is, like, it really is just more Clone Wars, right? Like, I liked the trailer. Yeah. I don't know. It seemed like a decent trailer. But it had movie audio of Palpy like starting the Empire. That's good stuff.
But like, it's actual Star Wars story.
It had Big Now Wynn's character in it.
Yeah, Fennec's in this. Like that's what I mean though, is that like the idea of like what happens to all the clones in the immediate aftermath of Order 66 is an interesting concept for a story that you can do a lot with. And like those are the sort of things that like, oh, like we've been wanting to, like, outside of Legends, like we've always wanted to know about that. Like I know they were like, what Chris probably knows more about this, like they were always flirting with doing like another Republic Commando game called Imperial Commando, and that's what the story, that was going to be kind of the crux of the story. Like I think I
was just gonna say the funniest thing for me about Bad Batch is like they're asking a lot of the casuals to like I guess they're like understanding the continuity. So like of just the animated shows, it's like, so you have the Clone Wars, which takes place between episode 2 and 3, and then that was followed. Between episode 2 and 3, and then that's followed by Rebels, which has some of the same characters from the Clone Wars, but this is after episode 3, and then this new series is actually between those two. So yet once again, we're going to have to find something for Ahsoka to do, but not develop her character too much, because we've already played out the end of that arc twice already.
Exactly. Like
maybe 3 times if we're lucky.
But like that's what I mean though, is that like, but this kind of like the Jedi, like, this is what I say, I love Star Wars when it delves into like the spirituality of the galaxy. It's kind of like the thing that people complained a lot about when Iron Man 3 came out. They're like, oh, why wouldn't Tony Stark just call the Avengers? It's because they can't do that all the time. And that's the thing. I'm willing to forgive them with Ahsoka, because it's like Ahsoka, like she's not a Jedi. Like they make a very big point of that, despite the fact they call the episode The Jedi a couple episodes ago.
I think
for the normies.
I argue that it's referring to the Jedi as a whole, not referring to her.
That's what I mean though. But like that's the thing. I'm willing to forgive Ahsoka, because Ahsoka is very much like her own thing. Like that's the thing. Like you have to just ignore that she's out in the ether somewhere. That she has her own priorities. She's focusing on something else. Same goes for Cal Calrissian. Like, would I love if Dominic Moynihan, if that's his name, were to show up in any live action stuff? Like, I love Jedi Fallen Order. I love that character. Like, I would love.
Definitely not Dominic Moynihan. But all right.
What's that?
Isn't Dominic Moynihan one of the hobbits? I don't think that's him. Anyway,
it's Dominic something. What's his name? I don't know. His name's it's Dominic something, right? Monaghan.
I don't know.
Somebody Google this, please. I don't feel like Google.
Yeah. I'm just saying you named a hobbit. That's all I'm saying. All right.
Okay, I named a hobbit.
I'm pretty sure you didn't, fine. But I'm going to go with it.
All right. I'm going to type in Cal Kestis into Google.
All right. Speaking of which...
Cameron Monaghan. Excuse me. I got the last name correct, the first name wrong.
I was going to give the answer to what rank the guy is according to my...
Did I ask that
about time?
It took a lot of cross-referencing because it is very unclear on certain things, and there's like Legends versus this.
Screenshot. Oh my
god! I did. I got a screenshot of it, looked at it, and those stupid cylinders matter too. He's a general.
Oh,
he should be, if based on the description of the calls he was making at that battle.
Yes, I was about to say because I think I said Lieutenant Commandant or something, which I was close without trying. But yeah, the ranking system of the Imperials is freaking confusing beyond reason, and I would get slapped in the mouth by somebody if I was in this Imperial army, because it is impossible to tell the difference between some of these. Because if you have 1 cylinder, it's this. If you have 2 cylinders, it's this. All I know is if you have yellow on there, salute them.
Well, okay. Chris is going to find this funny. I used to actually know the Imperial rankings really well, because Chris probably remembers on the Rebel Scum forums, that's how you used to like rank up. So I actually knew like all of them like insanely well, because like I would know certain people.
Excuse me, that is the Legends versions of the rankings. Those are no longer relevant.
This was back like in 2017, and this is before like Rebel Scum broke my spirit for forums. Yeah. Okay, but anyway, getting back to the point of Cal Calrissian, is that like
Cal Kestis.
Cal Kestis, is that like getting with Chris's whole point about things like Jedi floating out during like all these different, like how he's keep leapfrogging from different eras in Star Wars, is that like you kind of have to just not ignore the fact that there's other, like, it's not bizarre that there are other Force wielders out in this time, like during the original trilogy. Like, I think it's naive now.
I totally agree. My problem is that Cal Kestis is not that dangerous. He's off doing his own thing, but Ahsoka has a very personal connection to Vader and should have a vested interest in how that story played out, aka how the original trilogy played out. And of course I understand that this is retrospective, but like, why? It's like with Grogu, like, why does she not care about this stuff?
Because I think, and maybe this is how I think I got to think of a more concise way to describe this sort of philosophy I have when it comes to Star Wars. It's the idea that, like, think about it. Ahsoka lived through the Clone Wars. She
allegedly
went through. She did. What do you mean allegedly?
Oh wait, sorry, wrong wars.
Wrong series. Yeah,
wrong series.
Well, but like, okay, the Galactic Civil War is that she basically, like, we don't know what happens to her between when she goes through, like her and Ezra are in the world between worlds. Palpatine tries to attack them. She runs through her own portal. And next thing we know, that we see her in the epilogue to Rebels. And I know Cowboy Hat Man is running around saying that there's a potential theory, or he's playing a theory. He's kind of said, like, it's possible that her appearance in the epilogue could be taking place after the events of her in The Mandalorian in her spin-off show. So we don't know what Ahsoka is up to during the events of the original trilogy. Like, we don't know, because we know that at the end of the Rebel series, that's kind of flirting with like the events of like Rogue One. And that's the thing, is that like we don't know exactly. So like I'm willing to forgive them for that, because basically the last thing we know about Ahsoka in that time period from Rebels is that he tells Ahsoka, "Come find me." And that's kind of where we pick up with her in the next appearance she has in continuity in the Mandalorian episode. She's tracking down Thrawn, which obviously I imagine she found out about what happened from Sabine and Hera and all of them. That's the thing. Like when it comes to Cal Kestis, I've watched the final like cutscene of Jedi Fallen Order, and I know there's supposedly some sort of sequel coming to that game. Cal Kestis is rather formidable. He does hold off Vader to some extent.
Yeah, I mean that he's formidable and holds off Vader in the same sense that Starkiller from Force Unleashed does, as it is a service to the gameplay mechanics. But he's no Ahsoka in terms of like hilariously overpowered Jedi.
I don't think Ahsoka's overpowered though. Like, I think Ahsoka is
she's overpowered in the sense that nothing will ever kill her.
Well, that's because that's
she's got that fan armor.
Yeah,
well, exactly. That's a conceit of the real world, because she makes money. Like, they are never, just to let everybody know, we are never getting another Rogue One where they kill off all the characters at the end of the story. That is never happening again.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter if it does. They just get out of it by doing another prequel, so it doesn't matter. But that's what they're doing with Calrissian Andor. But you're saying he held off Vader. I was okay with the Vader interaction in Fallen Order, just because you're basically just running from him that whole level and like throwing objects behind you to get in his way. Like that's how a fight between that guy and Vader should go.
Well, okay. The thing about I know we never talked about Jedi Fallen Order in any sort of meaningful way, which is a shame, because it's probably the best Star Wars story to come out of Disney era Star Wars. In my humble opinion, I don't know if Chris, what would you agree with that? Like, how would you rank?
Oh my god, man! Like,
not
you know,
the story,
it's
not
just
the
like
story, but what?
No, I mean, like, that idea wouldn't have occurred to me until you said it. But like, you might be right.
It is. It's the best Star Wars story to come out. And the fact, this is the one thing I want everyone who listens to this podcast to like just get the concept of, is that I know a lot of people get mad at me when I don't spend a lot. I know there's a lot of podcasts out there, a lot of YouTube stuff that gets into like real world philosophy and like ties it into Star Wars and vice versa. And yet, like, to me, that's fun. Like, I love, like, looking at Star Wars in kind of like a literary sense is great. but it's more academic for me. Like, the thing I like doing is kind of like parsing through the tea leaves and see what's going to tell me what's on the horizon. And the fact, and I know I've mentioned this a couple of times already, but at Galaxy's Edge next year, they are making available the Cal Kestis lightsaber.
I think it's a baseball bat, but yeah.
You try to make this big point that you're building up to. God, you know what, Chris? You might be the next Zenger. You might not be the next. You might be the Zenger surrogate going forward. You're like,
I mean, we were all thinking it when we were playing the game, but fine. Sorry about that. All right.
Sorry. You know what the worst part is that Zenger's not wrong for laughing because that was really funny. It's just that,
it was solid. It's here's the thing. It's his deadpan Canada delivery of every line that makes it perfect. No, I just imagine some kid being like, "All right, the Kyle Kestis is like, this is just a bat."
It's pushing a meter long. Yeah.
Yeah. But there is an explanation as to why it's a meter long.
Shattering all the like $300 ones when they get a play fight. Oh man.
So, but you're obviously saying they wouldn't be releasing that unless he was gonna get a lot more content.
Yeah, they would not be pumping money into something that's going to cost, like, I would imagine, based on the fact that it's like a meter long lightsaber hilt, they would not be pumping that sort of money into an item unless they felt that there was something else that they could be doing with it. It's kind of like, again, going back to merchandising. I remember back in like February of 2019, Hasbro announced that, like, I think it was Yak Face. It's like, oh, Hasbro's like re-release, like making a Black Series like Palpatine figure to like release like November 2019. Everyone's like, wait, that's weird. Why would they be doing that like during the launch of like the new movie? And guess what? 2 months later, we all found out who was going to be the villain of not just the movie, but the entire franchise. And that's the thing. The merchandise usually sheds light on things. Like, they don't usually release product unless it's going to show up again. It's kind of like how we talked about at the beginning of this episode. The Darksaber, like, role-playing lightsaber. They wouldn't have made that unless it's going to show up sometime again in this season.
Right, and especially with the Cal Kestis lightsaber, because it's got to be like 3 times the cost of a regular one.
Exactly. Like,
it doubles as a baseball bat in minor league games.
You know,
all that extra material.
Stop running the joke into the ground, Zenger. It was funny the first
time.
I
have to. It's my job.
But, like, it's funny that Zenger, like, you guys make the joke about how big the lightsaber is, because, like, I have that lightsaber collection book, and I know I've raved about it before, but, like, it's legit, like, probably one of my favorite Star Wars books of all time. And, like when you look at that, like, man, it takes up like an entire page. Like, it legit, like, most of the hilts like take up like one with the blade like ignited. This one doesn't even have the blade ignited. It just takes up a whole page.
Are you saying the hilts are in scale with each other in that book, or like?
No, they're blown up for detail.
Okay.
They want. The thing about those, like on the page before, it has like the Ben Solo lightsaber,
right,
and like it's blown up really big, so you can get like a lot of detail.
I've never seen that book for sale. I don't even know what it looks like. I got to check that out.
No, it's really cool. Like, I found it like a Barnes and Noble near me before it was even available. It was one of those things where I found it like a week before like it was officially released. I remember like going to the people at the counter and like, am I allowed to buy this? And they're like, why can't you buy it? It's a book. They're like, it's Barnes and Noble. Please just buy something. And I'm like, you don't understand.
You just ask them like, you just ask them a Star Wars question, and they're like, what planet are you from? That's what it's about. Because like it's like the idea of locking a release date on a book is probably like not the most common with the majority of their products.
This isn't a Stephen King book.
This isn't Dr. Sleep. But no, but one thing I do have to point out that's like really weird about this book is that like I feel like it's concept like art digital renderings, because like I have a friend like designing a tattoo for me, and one of the designs is for the Leia saber. And in the book, the Leia saber has like this rose gold like finish to it, like on certain points of the hilt. Yet like I found pictures from StarWars.com of the actual prop, and the prop, it's more just like a brass copper. So I think it's weird that like they're like, I'm not sure if it's something that just like how the hilt is illuminated in person. Maybe the rose gold comes off as copper. But that's neither here nor there. But no, like getting back to Cal Kestis, could he show up? It's possible. Like, why wouldn't you use an actor that they used like motion capture for from a game from like they did all that for like 2 or 3 years ago? It'd be stupid not to.
I just think it lines up with the like you were saying, the end cinematic of that game. He's literally like, let's find all these kids. Like it's literally what we need. It's like literally perfectly fits in with what's happening in The Mandalorian.
That's the thing. It's like I has there been any rumors or gossip about what this final episode? Like, I don't want to do spoilers, but has there been? Chris, has there been anything out there? Yes or no? You don't have to go into specifics.
I've been purposely not looking for it, so I wouldn't know. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious. I guess the other thing too is that, like, because I know they showed a sizzle reel for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, but only to like a handful of people. Has that leaked it online at all?
I haven't seen that either.
Okay. I was just curious. Because I know, like, obviously, like, this investor call was done digitally. Like, I don't think there's only, I think not that many people were allowed into whatever they did. So if it was something digital, obviously all it takes is one person screen capping it.
Yeah, like, I heard it happened. Like, I heard there was one, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah, to know this description of concept art that was shown.
Yeah.
Which means, obviously, the fact they don't even want to show that means they're not concrete in what they're doing either.
Well, you know, it's probably 2 years old concept art from the previous incarnation of the Obi-Wan series.
I guess. Nothing says misleading like showing investors stuff that's most likely not relevant to what you're currently working on.
Yeah, I mean,
like the Rogue Squadron video.
Oh my god. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I kind of lost track of Mandalorian general ranking. The Operation Cinder thing I thought was really odd. I think what happened to Mandalore is I wouldn't be surprised if it got Operation Cinder edited. I think that's probably what happened.
Well, isn't it like nuclear radiated and basically destroyed, and they like have to live in certain like bubbles and everything?
That was during the Clone Wars and during Rebels.
I don't think it got better.
But like,
it sounded like it got worse, yeah. But also but also you have this the Bo-Katan kind of hints that there's like a propaganda view of what the planet's like versus what it's actually like, and like she's indicating that there's something worth salvaging there.
Yeah, I don't know, and that's the thing that they're kind of doing. Like, is Mandalore really an important part of Star Wars lore? Not really. It never has had any sort of important factor in any sort of story, right? Like, it's not really
and they're not even hitting on it hard in this series. Like, it's not like Din is like obsessed with getting it back. Like, he doesn't even think it's worth looking into. When he's asked about it, he says that it's cursed or something, right?
Yeah, he says it's cursed. Everyone who goes there dies. Wow. So he's pretty like on the idea of like being involved in it.
Well, that's the thing I think is interesting, that like they keep, whether it be Rebels or this show or other things, they keep sprinkling in like tidbits of Mandalore lore. And I know, like, what was it in that Rebels episode where Kanan is trying to teach Sabine how to wield the Darksaber, and you get that really cool like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 like little vignette of like, oh god, whatever that one Mandalorian who built the Darksaber and his fight against the Jedi.
Why are they always copying Harry Potter?
Hey, Zach, would they be having like, you know, sprinkling in some Mandalore in there?
You made this exact same joke last year.
I did.
Funny. Yes, you did. You made this exact same joke last year.
Perfect.
You were like Mandalore. Capital L-O-R-E. But like, that's the thing, is like, Chris, you know your Legends history better than I. Is that like, were the Jedi Mandalorian Wars before or after like Old Republic nonsense?
Well, it depends like which version of Legends you want to get into. Like, if you're going like real early, like it was the Jedi fought the Mandalorians during the Clone Wars. If you're going like early Lucas Vag comments.
Well, okay, sure. In a lot of Legend stuff, I know. I can still remember, like, in one of the Clone Wars Blu-ray behind the feature things, Dave Filoni's like, so George came to us. He's like, I want to make the Mandalorians pacifist. He's like, Jesus Christ, George, this goes against everything they've been doing in comics books for like 10 years now. He's like, how do we do this? And Lucas is like, I'll have a number 3, please. And that's kind of like there was a lot of that back and forth, like stuff you would hear Filoni like push back on Lucas, and Lucas would just steamroll over him.
Well, it's not that hard to work out. You just make like various terrorist organizations like Death Watch to keep the core ideals of the Mandalorians alive and the new version of canon.
Was that what they basically did?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay,
that's the joke, Zenger. That was the joke.
Oh, I thought I'll have number 3 was the joke.
Well, that's all our interest in this franchise is the real joke at the end.
It is.
Disney just keeps counting the money, and they're like, what a bunch of jerks. What a bunch of jerks.
Well, you're not wrong, because this last episode really made me realize was how underscale this big vintage collection Slave One actually is. Like, oh my God, they had a whole living room that rotated with the cockpit, and like the window's so big. Well, you can see them walking onto it, so like I think it's consistent with how it's shown in Attack of the Clones and Empire, but it's just like you realize like we've never seen that like main hold that's like underneath the cockpit before, like in live action anyway. Maybe in Clone Wars, I don't remember if they showed the interior in Clone Wars or not, but it was cool how like the window is so big that like they have an outside view on that level below the cockpit. Yep. That's kind of cool how it's all turning at once.
Like, that's neat. Like, that's sort of stuff that, like, if you're going to do Star Wars, like, fan service does not have to be X-Wings and TIE Fighters. Like, that's, like, a small thing that's just neat as a Star Wars fan. Like, after all these years, every Star Wars fan at some point has had either a Boba Fett or a Slave One toy. And, like,
I'm getting one.
You finally got...
It's even the original. The original Slave One toy had like the thing where the chair rotated 90 degrees. Like it's not like they showed that in the movie, right? Like that's something that like has just been around forever. Like basically because of the toys.
Yeah, and like that's a sort of like there's fan service that's like subliminal almost, and it's like stuff that like you might not have noticed, but your brain did. Like to me, that's infinitely more. What's the word? Satiating. Than just like having stormtroopers for no other reason than just like, oh, here they are, or having an army of not Boba Fett's in episode 3 of season 1. Like, there's ways of doing fan service that is like unnoticeable to the human eye, unless you're really scrutinizing it for that sort of thing. But like when it works, it works. Like that's what's so frustrating about current era Star Wars is that like they back into brilliance by accident, and it's like. I guess like a win is a win regardless of how you get there, but it's just frustrating that when they do it by accident, yet when they actually try hard, they kind of just trip over themselves. At the end of the day, it's kind of like a less is more sort of just like direction they should be going in. Yeah, like I said, no, this episode was a lot of fun. Like, Chris, you must have seen this movie. I know Zenger hasn't. Have you ever seen William Friedkin's Sorcerer with Roy Schneider?
Afraid not.
Okay. This movie ties directly in.
I have not as well.
Shocking.
Nice. You had me for a second there. That's
who
good.
Could have seen this coming? Said in the most flat way possible. If you've ever Sorcerer is tied to Star Wars lore because it came out. I think in May of 1977. It was like. It was a William Friedkin movie. Obviously, William Friedkin done the French Connection, The Exorcist, and like it was gonna be like one of the big movies of that summer. And it got just the air sucked out of it by Star Wars. And what Sorcerer is, it's a remake of a French film called The Wages of Fear. But the plot of Sorcerer is a bunch of people have to basically transport nitroglycerin to put out an oil fire, and they have to like navigate this really rough terrain with all these like obstacles and stuff. And if they go too fast or make any sudden movements, the nitroglycerin will explode, thus killing them. And this episode was very, very minimally that plot. Like it wasn't like.
Actually, Zach, I watched the thing on Screen Crush where they were like pointing out stuff that you may have missed. And after you described that movie, they did talk about that. But I did see its sequel. I did see Sorcerer's Apprentice with Nicolas Cage. So, I mean...
Same thing.
Same thing.
No, but there's a lot of great stylistic stuff in that sequence, man. Like when they're driving out and they see like the burnt out, rusted hulks of like the other transports. Like, I don't know, it reminded me of like almost like the like Jaws ride or something, where you just see like you're on this path and that's the direction you're going, and never mind these like roached out boats beside you that are a direct indication of your fate. And then like the pirate guys, like I think they were like maybe it's like a new Neil Scanlon thing where it's exactly like an old alien species, but not quite. Like, but they looked like Saesee Tin, that like one Jedi with like the two. Yep. I don't know if they were or not. They looked a little different, but it was kind of cool seeing like either a new species or a good use of a pre-existing one. But like they're funny little skiffs, like chasing them. Like that was good stuff, man. Like all the other burnt out. Oh man, when the cart ahead of them blows up and Bill Burr is like, can you believe she told us to keep driving, be carefully, like just keep going. He had some great moments, and it felt like they really let him sort of like freestyle a little bit, because a couple of his catchphrases made their way in there. Bill Burr is pretty good.
Yeah.
Zach, you have anything to say about this?
Huh?
You don't have anything to say about that segment? Or what Chris just said?
Me? I got to make a joke or something?
Well, I mean, I think Zach's like researching something and wanted you to like fill some air.
Okay. All right. In that case, since we've pulled back the curtain real quick, I'll fill in here with no. I mean, I thought that stuff was cool with the whole pirate. It also showed how like much he relies on his Beskar, because he has to change his fighting style halfway through, which is really cool. Also, it kind of showed him using a spear, which was, I guess, foreshadowing of probably next episode where he has to fight Darth Vader wannabe.
And yeah. No, for sure. And how about when the TIE fighters save them? Like, I love that, because I'm like, finally, something that would have actually happened. That's good.
Like, they have a whole base right there. Guys.
Yeah, that was great. Seeing the TIE fighters just murder this whole group of pirates who just want the Empire off their land, but you're happy because they saved your guy.
Poe Dameron, if the concept art is to be believed.
What?
Oh, you didn't see that at the end?
What?
It just kind of looks like
concept art where one of the people in the concept art looks just like Poe Dameron.
He would have been like 5 years old by the event of the series. He was born like a year after the Return of the Jedi, so he would have been like 5 years old. There's no way it could have been him.
Well, I'm not saying it was. I'm just saying the concept art, it's very clearly looks like Poe.
Well, they did. They probably had leftover concept art of like Poe and like the TIE fighter from Force Awakens, and we all seen it. Like,
all right, you ready for this?
Concepts and plug
you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. I'm looking at concept art now. Oh boy.
There. You tell me that does not look like Poe Dameron.
Who is that supposed to be?
Just somebody flying it. That is Poe Dameron looking to me.
That does not look like Poe Dameron.
That looks exactly like Poe Dameron. Do you need a picture of Poe Dameron?
I mean, you have half a face here from a really low angle. No. It kind of looks like
he's
they copy and pasted into
the
other vehicle.
Yeah, it probably did.
Yeah, but see, this was back when he was like that sketchy past he had that had to take up.
It's too early.
So much.
It's too early though.
Whoa,
yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I'm glad you brought up Spice Runners. Okay, did you guys see the newest toy Star Wars toy? One thing I did see. I didn't see Darksabers. I didn't see Black Series. I didn't see anything else. And I didn't see any of that.
My first time interneting.
You know what I did see?
What?
Babu Frick plushes that when you squeeze its toe, it makes Babu Frick sounds. It goes, ho ho! And droid brain go black. Like, I was like, oh, Disney, where was this a year ago? Like, I would have bought 100 of these. Like, this is the plush I want. Like, forget Baby Yoda. like Babu Frick is infinitely more adorable than Baby Yoda, like merchandise. Like I squeeze its toe and it goes, ho ho, and I'm like, I literally took every single one in the store and just dumped it at the register. And they're like, sir, that's so nice. You're buying these for like Toys for Tots. And I started laughing maniacally as I got into my car and drove away.
Well, I mean, he definitely like at least has some memorable lines, unlike Baby Yoda.
Yes.
The vicious attack on Baby Yoda you just made. How dare you?
Pointing out the fact that he's never said anything. Okay.
Big whiskey.
Exactly.
Big whiskey.
Right.
Big whiskey. Yeah, exactly. Big
Dude,
whiskey.
should we say that somebody that Jerry actually got that right?
Yes.
Like, like within 24 hours, like he was in the Facebook group and he's like, Rob, what do I win? And he got it like, immediately.
That's I kind of like resent the way he won. Like he could have cheated a little bit. Like he could have done a better job. Like he literally screen capped his Google search of the two terms. Like I don't know. I think you should sort of like hide the fact that you literally just put the two words in Google.
Why don't I own this plush toy?
A Babu Frick?
Yeah, I've seen it too. That's the sad part.
It's great. Every time I go to this, it's my like how everybody else was fascinated by the screensaver, which I was never really fascinated by, other than the fact that like everybody else was. Like every time I walk into Target, like I see Babu Frick sitting there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna keep squeezing his toe. Uh-huh.
You know what? I think I'll point out to Ellie that it talks, and then maybe it will be a good like gift for me.
Well, I mean, there's nothing that, like, first of all, okay, so there's nothing that says we've said all we need to say about this episode other than talking about Babu Frick. So we've definitely got to that point. To sum it up, it has lots of cool action. Slave One is awesome. Very little.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like very little
Grogu.
annoyed me, except for like when they're just idiots in the bar that's the size of a living room.
Should we say it's the first time that Baby Yoda wasn't in an episode of the show?
That would technically be true, I think. Also, I do like
precedent. I hope the show continues with going forward.
Well, not this season, but it's a good idea.
I do also enjoy the fact that the speech that Mando gave was basically almost verbatim the speech that
I don't know if he's going to say Liam Neeson or Moff Gideon.
Gideon.
All right.
I mean, it's a combination of both.
Yeah.
I do like the torso up holograph that we got. Like those are really nifty, and I mean, I'll take an action figure of that.
I don't know how I feel about the wisdom of like telegraphing the fact that you're about to attack him like that, just to like be cool, but. Like, what's the purpose of that message? I don't know.
It's to
awesome.
Be bad. It's to exactly. It's to be badass.
Yeah.
It's to let him know I know where you are and I'm coming for you.
Yeah, like the only thing that he could have done to make it more badass would be ignite his double-bladed lightsaber.
Well, I mean, for no reason.
He tells Moff Gideon to bring the ship to Dathomir. Bring the ship to Dathomir.
I got plans for you. That will never be addressed till season 2 of Lando on Disney Plus.
I was about to say the only other thing. Dang it, Chris, you took he is stealing everything from me. Because I was about to say the joke I was going to say is he was going to tell me he's going to see him at SummerSlam because he basically cut like a wrestling promo.
I mean, I'm sure
ruined it.
I'm sure you could do a funny re-edit of it using some wrestling promo music that would and like cheering. That'd be good.
Dun, 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 dun.
So what's gonna happen in next week's episode? Like, are we gonna have a clip?
Nothing. It's not gonna be anything. We're gonna have to wait till season 3.
Is there gonna there really wasn't any sort of the big reveal, quote unquote, for the end of season 1 was the Darksaber. What's gonna be our big moment at the end of this season?
I keep on seeing so much online that Din's going to become a Jedi, and I'm like, how? He hasn't shown any Force sensitivity at all.
He's also very stupid.
Yes, he is. He is kind of dumb. Were you when Chris last week talked about the fact that he does not lock his ship at all? Like he's just the guy who basically gets out of his car and
oh
leaves
my
the door
god!
open every single time.
Okay, but once again, Bill Burr. you have to take your helmet off to start the computer. He's like, yeah, let's just try it, even though I'm currently being watched by officers. It's like, what is the guy's problem?
Also, if everyone knows their Imperial Basic or whatever it is, it does, the option he picked said scan face. So, I mean, I don't understand how you don't get the point of it's gonna scan your face. It was cool for the whole like sorry, Ellie just poked her head in and needs to poke it back out because I'm talking about spoiler stuff.
I miss you.
I miss you too. Bye.
Oh,
I love you.
That's her first appearance right there.
There, you got it, Zach.
Yes. Counts.
But no, that the whole Bill Burr speech, aside from being space racist or whatever he wants to be, is pointing out that, you have to sacrifice stuff to, do this and everything.
He's not being space racist. He's pointing out the very problematic nature of religious fundamentalism.
And the fact that 2 planets don't exist anymore. Which, once again, might prove my theory that shot that missed went and hit Mandalore.
Missed.
Oh, way earlier episode where I made a comment that, like, when the Death Star was firing during Part 2 Battle Boogaloo, that one of the shots missed and blew up Mandalore. Like, just flew through space and blew up Mandalore eventually. It was made in an earlier episode. Now the jokes are... Not only is he having better jokes, he's killing my jokes.
No, I'm just really bothered that I didn't know that the Death Star missed a shot in the Battle of Andorra. That somehow is not in my access memory. Yeah. Well, yeah.
The robot chicken thing. But no, I mean, it's showing that he is willing to go this far to get his kid back.
Well, does he get Baby Yoda back at the end of the season?
I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say there's gonna be a big middle finger at the end of this season that's gonna be like, haha, tune in for next season.
I kind of agree. I think this mystery Jedi is gonna show up, and the end is gonna be the new A-team ready to go get Baby Yoda again.
Well,
you're even going that far? They won't even attack. Like, I thought they were.
No, I think they're going to have a battle, but I think they'll have a battle, but either Gideon or one of his underlings is going to get away with Baby Yoda, I think. And then but this Jedi is going to show up near the end, having missed a lot of the action.
The important stuff.
Yeah.
Like
that's what I think is going to happen.
So, okay, so you guys think they're going to go direct. That's going to be the big reveal. That there's going to be some character that we all should recognize from Star Wars lore that's going to show up at the last, 2 minutes of the episode. When all hope is lost, someone will come in at the last moment giving hope, and then it's going to be cut to black.
Yeah, it's going to be like in Lord of the Rings when like the Gimli and Legolas and Aragorn decide well, even though like Frodo's definitely doomed, we should still go after these other 2 hobbits so they don't get horribly eaten by monsters. It's going to be like that. It's going to be like a new A-team.
I'm down for it.
What's the over-under on whoever's controlling Moff Gideon showing up?
I think we get a hologram of him.
So you think we'll get hologram? I said, okay, Chris.
We all know who you're talking about, Zach. So go ahead.
Well, come on. Hologram, blue, Thrawn's blue. Like, all they gotta do is just tint the hologram like eyes slightly red.
Bluer?
Happy. No, it's slightly. The eyes have to be slightly red. Like I said, I don't know, because now they're doing an Ahsoka series. I could see him being saved for Ahsoka, and Thrawn. Remember, I keep saying that like they're saving something big for the time period between Jedi and Force Awakens. I could see that the crossover between.
Oh my
Ahsoka,
God! They're gonna call it Shadows of the Empire.
No, that's Empire and Jedi.
No, but they're gonna rename it so that they can't use that name anymore.
I could see Thrawn being the big bad. If they're going to do like a crossover of these 3 shows where like it culminates in this big thing, like Marvel's Defenders, I could see Thrawn being the big bad guy of that. And this is your first taste of him. Is at the end of the season. Like I said, if Thrawn does show up at all in this show, it's going to be Thanos at the end of the first Avengers. They probably haven't cast the actor they're going to use, kind of like they did with the first Avengers movie. And he might not even say anything. He might just literally just turn around and like smile as his eyes glow and cut to black.
I don't think you'll get that in next week's episode because if you're gonna get that in Mandalorian, it's gonna be like it has to be like close to when the Ahsoka show is gonna start, right? Because you have season 3 of Mandalorian where you can't have Thrawn, so why are you gonna show him as the puppet master at the end of season 2?
Then why did they show Thanos in Avengers in 2012 when he really doesn't become a major player until 2018?
And
I'm just saying they're gonna have to sub in somebody else as an antagonist in season 3.
I don't know, because Moff Gideon doesn't die, because what's his name? Giancarlo Esposito has said, like, oh man, season 3 is when you really get to see me be a bad guy.
Okay,
so either that's him. So, like, either they're misleading the audience and he's going to die at the end of the season, or...
I forgot about that. Yeah, I think he's going to get away.
Daughters some more.
I think he just gets away with Baby Yoda again.
I think that's what's going to happen, but I think you're going to have the tease of Thrawn. I think they have to. They wouldn't name drop a character that big in Star Wars lore. Like I said, it's kind of like, again, Thanos is ubiquitous now in the sense of, like, when it comes to casual moviegoers. Remember, Zenger remembers this, in the summer of 2012, how many people did you have to explain to who the guy was at the end of the Marvel movie?
Every single person I saw, met, or even vaguely talked to.
Exactly.
Because everyone asked, who is that?
And guess what? 6 years later, he was ubiquitous. And I think that's what's going to be with Thrawn. And it's also, as we know, too, the reason why they keep sprinkling all these other things into Mandalorian is they want people to go back and watch the other series. And
which Elliot said she's going to do now.
Exactly. And I think if they showed Thrawn, if Thrawn's the Darksaber of season 2, people will go back and watch Rebels now in order to get the entire gist, or at least the latter 2 seasons of Rebels. And I think that's going to be the goal. I just think, I know I've got this weird thing for Thrawn, and I've been on this Thrawn train for a while now, but exactly. Ever since the Aftermath Empire's End book, man, they led us to believe that he was going to be the link between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy. And I think he's the one. I think that's going to be the key to all, at least in my humble opinion. I could be very much wrong. But I do think that's where this is going, at least on a villain level. I don't know. Like, has there been any talk about Luke Skywalker showing up at the end? Like, have people walked away from that yet? Because everybody I've talked to and discussed this with has it down to either Luke, Cal Calrissian, or Mace Windu.
I keep hearing Mace Windu, and I keep on banging my head against the wall because I'm like, it'd be so overly complicated to explain.
No, when he just survived. Doesn't matter. He went to hiding.
No, it's like, what? So wait, every Jedi just was like, oh, I got beat. Time to go into hiding.
That's literally what the message says that Obi-Wan does in Revenge of the Sith. It's like we've seen it in in Revenge of the Sith. We've seen it in Rebels. I'm pretty sure it showed up in Jedi Fallen Order as well.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's message. And
wait, did it show up in this yet?
Why would
it?
I mean, just for them to reiterate it for dumbasses like me that sit here and try to be like, no, other stuff.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, is there any other character out there that could show up that's Darksaber level equivalent where people would be like, oh man, like I recognize that.
Are you really asking this question to me? Do you know what the answer is going to be? You obviously know what the answer is going to be. Every time.
Well, no, he's not. But he's not established.
They can establish him afterwards.
No, because people will not know. I'm literally going through the lightsaber book that has a bunch of Jedi nonsense in it, and there's like everybody is dead from this time period. Ayla Secura, Ahsoka, Anakin, Barriss Offee.
Well, Ahsoka's not dead. Allegedly.
It's really a tough question because, like, narratively speaking, if you're looking at the whole canon, like Cal Kestis seems like an obvious choice to me, but it's true that for the vast quantity of normies, that's not someone from the original trilogy, so they don't get to go ooh and eat popcorn when that person shows up. So it's not going to be exciting for them.
On sale a lot recently, though.
What?
Fallen Order. It's almost like they're trying to get people to buy and play the game.
Well, they've made the initial launch money. If they can still make some sales, it's when it came out, probably 2 years ago, right?
A year ago.
It hasn't even been a year, I don't think.
Yeah, it was November. It came out the Tuesday before the Mandalorian premiere.
Well, I mean, it's a game that should go on sale because it's a single player campaign. They're not really adding to it or supporting it, so it's not like there's new stuff for you to get if you jump on board now, right? So like, I don't know, it seems like a wise move to put it on sale, but I mean, but you know what I'm saying though, like those stories line up. It's all canon. I think it's possible given the fact that they're doing stuff like putting Cobb Vanth in there, because like normies have no clue what that character is. So
I mean, I have a good idea of he's a dreamboat and just
yeah.
I want that action figure.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's gonna be like 5 new Boba Fett figures. It will take like 5 years for them to come out, but there's gonna be like Cobb Vanth. There's gonna be Tusken Raider Boba Fett. There's gonna be Dirty Armor Boba Fett, and then repainted armor Boba Fett.
Boba Fett. I'm so glad I can roll. I mean,
I will buy every single one of them.
I did not. No one doubted that. No one ever said we doubt you.
The only other Jedi that would be technically alive potentially during this period would be what? Quinlan Voss?
Maybe.
I think that's just too deep of a cut.
That is way too deep. But he's the only other character I can think of, and we all know that like he was one of those characters. Well, he was also in Lucas wanted him in, what was it? Lucas liked the extra in the Phantom Menace, and he's like, let's make that guy a Jedi, and everyone's like, okay. And like Lucas went out of his way to have that character survive like Order 66, like in like non-movie media. Like I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Like I don't know who else could be. Like it's Luke, Cal Kestis, Mace Windu. Who's even a non-Jedi? Like I'm trying to go back to Clone Wars and Rebels. Who are?
Oh my God, you fools! Both of you are fools. Maz.
Granted. Oh.
Why has no one said Maz? No discussion has ever said Maz.
Because I'll tell you what. I'll go ahead and tell you why right now, okay? Because the sequel trilogy, like, borderline doesn't exist in the Mandalorian chronology. Like, because like something that what did we just get? 10 shows announced, and you know what? Like, basically none of them are within 10-foot pole of the sequel trilogy. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to remind you of that. It's like they want you to get all fired up. So I don't think it's gonna be Maz. That's an interesting idea, but
it is because nobody's brought it up yet, and I'm like, she's force sensitive, but she's not a Jedi.
That's an interesting idea, but bringing some. No, it is. Like I applaud that, but like that's bold thinking. But like that character model, if you go back to like all your stories about The Force Awakens, like they had a hard time like with Lupita Nyong'o and that character, like not like on like an actor level, but because like they just couldn't figure out how to like do stuff with that character, and that's why she was always like sparingly used in the rest of the sequel trilogy.
Or had the best cameo in Last Jedi ever.
Oh, we can't. I don't know. I'm not gonna leave that alone. All right, it's fine.
But that's the thing. So like. Who from Clone Wars and Rebels, who's a Jedi character, or not a Jedi, but it's like a Force-using character that people wouldn't expect that could show up? Because like they seem to be pulling a lot from media. It could be Ezra. Could it?
Force Ghost. Just a ton of Force Ghost shows.
I think they're banking Ezra for the Ahsoka series. I would guess. So I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. But like, that's the thing. Like I don't know who you could like, but I don't think Ezra would get people excited though. The same way I don't think Cal Kestis would get people excited. Like that's
I think Cal Kestis is like I think that would do all right. I think a lot of people like that game.
No, but that's the thing though, is that like you can't look at it. Remember, Disney doesn't care about the fans. They care about driving people.
Actually,
probably.
I think they know that doing a Sebastian Stan Luke would be divisive.
I don't think it. I don't. That's the thing is that like. That's why everything points to Mace Windu. Is like it would make sense.
I'll be impressed. I really don't think so, but I'll be impressed if they do. Because it's just like it's because Samuel Jackson wants to. That's the answer to why.
But it also makes again he survived. And think about it. It goes back.
Does he though? Should he have survived? That seemed like a pretty definitive kill.
No, it wasn't. He got force light and he got a window. He got one hand still.
I mean, it's a Coruscant window.
Yeah, and Anakin jumps off a ship in episode 2, and literally nothing. Like, think about it. It's the exact same.
Yeah, but there's
That's how he killed an Inquisitor, though.
There's a difference between like having like your physical faculties and purposely like doing a skydive versus like getting your arm cut off and then getting electrocuted and then thrown out a window. Like you want to
get his hand cut off and falls down like an infinite like chasm on Bespin.
There's a lot of luck involved in that fall. That's true. It's true. Like there's a lot of there's wind, there's air funnels and stuff. Like I don't know.
There's a lot of wind on Coruscant.
Yeah. I just
ship waiting. Like, think about Yoda. Yoda falls down like the Senate chambers and like literally falls like 100 stories, bangs onto like the podium thing and rolls onto the ground, and he just gets up and crawls through like.
This has got to be farther than that, and also he's like electrocuted.
So was Anakin. He was fine.
Look what the lightning did to Palpatine like 5 seconds before that, and also like
Luke and Anakin, they were fine. They got electrocuted.
Yeah, I mean the implication is that Luke would have been dead in a few minutes if Vader didn't save him.
I don't think so. I think when Palpy's doing his like, I know Russ has talked about this. I think Palpy has like different settings he can turn it to. I think there's like torment, stun, and like murder.
Because Luke, they just sprayed a little bit of smoke on Luke. They didn't really apply any makeup to show that he was getting burned or anything, right?
Exactly. I think that's the difference. Like in Attack of the Clones, like Anakin gets stunned. In Jedi, Luke kind of gets like tormented, like he's being tortured, and then like in Rise of Skywalker, like Palpy has it like on murder mode.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't. To me, that would be a bit of a groaner because it's like.
Oh, it is.
Listen, I'm like I watched that scene. He just died. It's part of the scene that he died. It's like that's why Anakin's all traumatized. That like it's I don't know. It's just like don't I don't know if I'll like that. It'll be fun, but like to me that's kind of messing with episode 3 in a way that His Holiness would not have intended.
Chris, we're getting an Obi-Wan and Darth Vader rematch. Nothing is sacred.
But that's
nothing is. They are desecrating. They're desecrating basically God, the Old Testament right now. If they do that.
Yeah, but like you know, that's why I really hope it's not Mace Windu because like he died in episode 3.
All right, so let's go through. I have all the options we presented. Which do you think would be the most applauded or the most divisive? Like, is Cal Kestis like the easiest because like it's the least controversial? It makes kind of narrative sense. And is the most divisive Luke Skywalker or is it Mace Windu?
I think Luke is both the most divisive and the most applauded.
But what Luke, is it Sebastian Stan or is it Rise of Skywalker Luke?
No, it's Sebastian.
You think they'll recast Luke instead of doing painting his face, doing a deep fake?
I think so because Sebastian Stan won't want to do it if his face is getting 50% repainted over by a deep fake Mark Hamill. I don't think he would be off put by that, and I don't think if they pick somebody other than him, it's gonna be like a show in the fandom. So like, because like he's been given the normie approval. There's all the photoshops of Sebastian Stan as Luke. Like people think they want that right now, and they don't realize they don't actually want that, but they think they want that right now. So like, I could see them doing it. I think my money's on Cal Kestis.
Could it be someone though? Like I'm kind of doing a Zenger now. Could they do like a Lor Santeca? Like something like that, like where it's like someone more like
Lor Santeca is not a character, okay, guys? Like y'all need to stop talking about Lor Santeca.
But he was in the no. I'm just trying to think though, because like in the comics, like when you have like Luke, like Jedi Master Luke, and like Padawan Ben Solo going around doing their thing, he's in a couple of those stories. So I'm just trying to think of who would be somebody that like who would hear this call, who would answer the phone to like Baby Yoda sitting on a rock.
I think we're accepting that it's not going to be a Sith of some kind.
Not a villain.
It wouldn't be, right? Like that's not how the
whoa. Well, we don't know. Okay, now you open oh God, you just opened Pandora's box.
Well, I don't think it would be just the way they showed the mountain Skype call and the way Ahsoka explained it. I don't think a Sith would be able to hear that. Hopefully, right? I don't know.
We also
just reach out with the Force.
I don't know. That's interesting. Like okay, what?
Well, it can't. Yeah, there's not many on the table. There's not many on the table, right? So like Asajj is dead. Maul's dead.
Was he-
You had to think
was he
about
on
that for a second.
No. Maul's gonna appear in the hologram as the one pulling the strings.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like all the Sith are pretty much dead, I guess. Because Snoke, I firmly believe Snoke is not born yet, based on a previous episode.
What are we calling a test tube creature? Like, are we calling that birth?
Proto
What are
Snoke.
we calling Proto Snoke? Pickle jar. The pickle jar shows up.
Yeah. So I like that's a fun idea that a Sith could show up, but like it'd be a new character probably if they did.
Well, I'm trying to think. I'm going back to Jedi Fallen Order. Like, there's like all these weird tangential like religions. Like that's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah, and I
Like,
guess
could
what's his master's name?
Wolf? Could a wolf show up? Like,
Oh my
the wolf from
God!
Rebels. The wolf just shows up. Remember, they can travel through light speed. They're light speed wolves.
Yeah, but like Cal's master was still alive at the end of the game, right?
Well,
Because
yeah,
she like rediscovered the Force throughout the game. I can't remember if there's any other Jedi in that game.
Well, you have not really. You have Seer. You have this Trilla, and that's kind of
She dies, right?
Spoiler alert. Yes.
Oh,
What?
it's old news.
It's great. It's been out for a year.
What's the Night Sister's name?
Night Sister Marin.
So she's a Jedi now, right? Or kind of? I don't know.
she's like, okay, she's weird. Like she's not she's like, it's like a different thing of the Force. Like it's
Right.
kind of like what Rebels was doing, like all these like tangential things to the Force. Like you could be a Force user without being a Jedi. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what other Force users did Rebels encounter? They really think like they encountered a bunch of different other like paths that the Force took.
The
but they
Bendu.
never really. Oh, that'd be fun.
There's a ton
That'd
of
be
Bendu.
fun. Purgle. Yeah. Maybe remember that Rise of Skywalker like concept art where it was like Bosk sitting like on a throne. He gets like a phone call from Lando Calrissian and hits ignore. It's like maybe it's that. Maybe it could be that. Maybe Bosk gets the phone call and he's like, not again. How long do we get a Bosk appearance in this show? Or Dengar?
I mean,
Forlom or Zuckuss.
I feel like they're like we're getting way out there now, but like I find they're
No, I don't mean Baby Yoda. I just meant in general. Like
no, but I mean
I think it's.
I have a serious answer, and that is that I find the Mandalorian show's redesign of Trandoshans is appalling, and they look ridiculous and terrible compared to the original Bosk.
Speaking of terrible and appalling, I'm sorry, Zenger. Go ahead.
I was about to say, you mean the original Bosk that we all... Oh, wait, I'm thinking of Zuckuss. Never mind. Joke's done.
No, but I mean, they made it so the actor's eyes show through, which totally changed the head of the Trandoshan, and it looks weird, and I don't like it.
Speaking of horrible and appalling, in the Facebook group, I posted a picture of this. I am a self-abuser. I like to hurt myself for others' enjoyment. I bought the 40 years of 40 points of view Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. Yes, because I'm a bad person that likes to hurt myself. And I read 2 stories, and I think every week on the podcast, I'm going to recap these stories and let you guys tell me if you think they're good stories or bad stories based on the synopsis I give.
Yay, and the episode's here.
Yes, end of the episode is here. All right, the first story, and I'm not making this up, is about a bunch of nerds like in a control room in Denver watching probe droid drone footage, and they're the ones who actually find the Hoth base, not Admiral Piet. They find it and they sit there like tell Admiral Piet, and like one of them tries to steal the credit from the other who actually found it. And yet the person who finds it, this Imperial something woman, she has like this fascination with probe droids because her mother builds them, even though the mother hates the Empire.
I'm done with this story already.
No, it gets worse. It gets worse. And the story ends with this person sneaks away at night because she just loves exploring other planets via the probe droids. And how the story ends is that that she's looking at this probe, and the probe crash landed on this swamp planet, and she can barely make out an X-wing submerged in water, and decides it's nothing, and goes, it's like nobody should care about Dagobah anyway, and that's the end of the story.
Despite the fact that
there was a probe droid on Dagobah? Did you know that?
Oh my god!
Oh, and
during the events of Luke and Yoda during Empire, did you know that? Because
it landed on his X-wing.
It landed right next to it, to the point where she can make out the shape of it, and she's like, X-wing.
And then the one thing she's supposed to be looking for, she decides is nothing.
Yes.
And it's not because she wants to spare some rebels. It's because she actually is dumb and thinks it's nothing.
Yes.
Mercy.
No, it gets better. The next story gets even better. It's the tale of the Wampa from the Ice Cave. Oh my god. Not making this up either. It's a story from the Wampa's perspective. That alone should be the joke.
Sketch? Like, what are we talking?
It is. The story is that the Wampa has a really nice cave. The Wampa has a wife and kids. I'm not making this up. The Wampa has a wife and kids, and he also has a den mate. So clearly, Wampas are kind of into like swinging. Like there's like a low, like it's in there. Like it's subtext, but it's there. The Wampas are into swinging. The Wampa goes out hunting to like feed the family, and when he comes back, apparently like the cave where the Wampa and the family were living was Echo Base, and the rebels murdered the Wampa's family. So the Wampa like goes into like depression, just starts like wandering around like Hoth, until eventually like it has a bloodlust for humans. And so it finds Luke Skywalker and the Tauntaun and deliberately like doesn't kill Luke to like make him suffer for like what the other humans did to his family. And then like when it gets its arm cut off, it doesn't know what's happening. And then like eventually it finds the like after like it stumbles out in the snow after being like having its arm cut off, it like wanders through Hoth for a while until eventually it stumbles back into Echo Base empty, and it's happy because it thinks its family might still be there. The end.
Okay. Oddly enough, I feel like this was in a comic or something, because I feel I heard that it got to Echo Base at some point.
It did. And I think like what they're trying to do is they're trying to cut like that deleted scene back in to like canon by saying that like in that like room that has like the Star Wars hazmat sticker on it that like C-3PO pulls off and opens. I think they're trying to say like that's where the rest of the Wampa's family is. Like they're not dead. They're just kind of like locked in a coat closet somewhere.
That's exactly what they're saying.
Wait. So technically that would also make Shadows of the Empire the Nintendo 64 game canon too, because in that game there's randomly Wampas in cages that you have to fight every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, it's also a reference to the same deleted scene, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they take like 1,000 shots. It's pretty great.
Yeah. The book, somehow these books keep ruining Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, you know, the rebels are really jerks for like kicking those Wampas out of that cave. Like that's what you're really supposed to take away from this.
Yes. Like and the best part is I'm only 2 chapters in out of 40. Like, and we haven't gotten to the book. Like I said, I don't think I finished the Boba Fett chapter. I think it was just like a couple of pages. But man, that is going to be that's good. I cannot wait to read that. And it's 100% a different character than we get this season of The Mandalorian. Cannot wait. Everything. Is it true that everything is awful? Like not just Star Wars, but just everything. Right?
I mean, you knew what you were getting into with that book.
Oh, I know.
I know. Like I wouldn't have.
Like here's the thing that gets me. You had the art of The Mandalorian sitting right there. I mean, I assume it was right there, but you had that option, and you just brushed it aside and went with something you knew you were going to hate yourself for in about 5 seconds.
You know what it is? You know what it is, Zenger? It's the art of The Mandalorian in this digital age where concept art is just cobbled together using Photoshop with old Ralph McQuarrie images. At least a certain point of view will make Zack feel something.
Yes.
Hatred.
Frustration. You know what the worst part is? You know how many Star Wars books I still need to read? Like, I still haven't gone through the lightsaber book. I have the Target edition of Star Wars Dark Legends. I have the at this point, I'm losing track of how many Thrawn trilogy books there are. I have the
I don't think it's a trilogy anymore.
Thrawn trilogy. There's a bunch of Thrawn trilogies. Like, honestly, we're on the third Thrawn trilogy book. I have the original Alphabet Squadron, which I never finished from a year ago. I have Shadowfall, which I still have not read, despite the fact that I know how it ends. And I also have the Legends of Luke Skywalker, the manga, which I've only read the first 3 stories for. So, yeah, the Legends, actually, the 2 best books so far have been the Legends of Luke Skywalker, the manga, and the lightsaber book. To be fair, I read like maybe the first quarter of the Thrawn book, and it's fine. Like, it's exactly what you'd expect. I'm happy with it in that sense, but it's very boilerplate. And the Dark Legends book I haven't delved into yet. But I figured from a certain point of view book, if anything will make me feel something, even if it's frustration and anger, and just lead me even further down the hole of depression.
Well,
that book.
But I'll tell you, the 2 synopsises you gave were like, that experiencing that book in this format is obviously the superior way. Like, that was funny. That's good.
Oh, it is. Oh no, that's the best part. Like, every time I start reading one of these stories, like the next chapter is about the woman that says standby ion control, fire. The next story is for that character. That's
some people just don't need stories.
She had an action figure in the 3 3/4 Black series. It just blows my mind. Yeah.
I know. That was back when they actually used to make toys for Star Wars.
Crazy.
I still, you know what Star Wars figures I really want more than anything right now? I just want Rise of Skywalker, Luke and Leia training on Aegon class. I want those 2 figures so badly.
You think that would be an easy sell?
It would be. Like, I want where's the 6-inch Knights of Ren? They made like one of them and they stopped it. Like, we got all the Praetorian Guard. Like, we never got all the Knights of Ren. Like, where's my Ben Solo action figure with a little hole like in the sweater? Where's Rey Skywalker with her lightsaber?
I think they were just able to
reuse. Where's my Ben Solo in bed getting attacked by Luke diorama?
There's probably a lot of reusable parts for the Praetorian Guard figures, like where the head's just different or something, and the weapons. I don't know.
Just take the Kylo Ren head from the Black Series figure from Force Awakens, just put it on like a sweater body. Like, literally, it's like a Ken doll, just like a kit mashup.
Yeah. Well,
like,
that movie's old. That movie's old news, bro. You got to get with the times.
Exactly, it's old news. Like, we need more Endor Black Series. Like, come on, everybody's just dying for that Leia and Endor fatigues costume, like her figure.
People did seem to be excited about those, but I'm not.
I like the Luke Skywalker one because it basically doubles as 2 figures. Like, you take the poncho and like helmet off, and you have like throne room Luke.
Yeah, that's good. There's this fun there's this funny feature of the vintage poncho Luke where they made the poncho removable, but the hat was part of the sculpt, and like it just trolled children. It's like what a move. The poncho comes off, but the helmet's just stuck on, and it looks hilarious. Terrible.
You know what I'm still waiting for too? Where is anything Palpatine like Rise of Skywalker? Like, there's literally no Palpatine Rise of Skywalker merchandise.
Because it's just Return of the Jedi Palpatine. That's all. That's what they want.
No, he's more rotted.
Yeah, but they used the Return of the Jedi hot toys in the poster, so like, good enough.
Oh, there you go.
I will never forget.
It was good.
I will never forget. Is that like the most embarrassing Star Wars like marketing fail there's ever been? The fact they used a Hot Toys figure for official marketing and like nobody pushed back on that.
If it weren't, well, a little bit. If it weren't Episode 9, it would be less embarrassing. But it's like literally like your main movie. It's kind of weird.
I just want
like they're just wanting to get it done with at that point.
They just literally signed off on everything.
Zach, you probably saw it if you come across the Hasbro put out like these 5 packs of 5 POA figures. I don't know if you've seen those, but there's a Sith set, and the 3 3/4 Palpatine in that it's currently available at retail, and it's the best 3 3/4 Palpatine figure ever made.
Is it like Jedi Palpatine?
It's
Like Return of
Jedi
the Jedi?
Palpatine. Yeah, it is, but it's in terms of like how it looks and like the resolution of the face and like the sculpt for the cloak and everything, and comes with spare hands for lightning. It's the best Palpatine 3 3/4 ever done, for sure.
Mm. They
Yeah.
never really nailed Palpatine like in
This
figure
one's
form.
good. This one's good. It's 3 3/4. The Black Series one's like when you go fabric cloak on a small figure, it always looks weird. The
Yeah.
Black Series one doesn't do it for me. But that new 3 3/4 one's pretty good. You got to buy 4 other figures to get it though.
I want him with his crimson robe from the end of the film. That's all I want. I want Palpatine in all his glory. Let your death be the final word, the story of the rebellion.
Now,
I yell at people at work all the time. I just yelled at them randomly, like, what does this mean? Why do you keep yelling at me?
right?
And
We
like,
should have. There should be more attention to this moment where the first time ever the Force manufactured new clothing on the spot.
There are some abilities some might call unnatural. I get new clothes? Yes.
That fancy new belt. Oh,
Look at
God.
it.
You are just a scavenger girl. I am the Sith. Oh my God, he's so like, say what you will about that movie, but he's delightful. Like every single scene he's in that movie, he's delightful in that movie.
I'm
like,
surprised he can get his lines out with all the scenery in his mouth.
Exactamundo, but it's perfect though. Like it is. Oh God, it's so perfect. Like every line of dialogue he has in the movie is like, "My boy, I made Snoke." It's like, oh, please don't stop. Just keep chewing. Keep chewing. That's just what it is. That's perfect camp. Like oh God, there's somebody made a video on YouTube. It's called like Palpatine Perfection of Camp. And it's like, exactly. Like I don't have to watch the video. Like I agree with your thesis. I don't need to watch your video for 29 minutes. Like bingo, you get it, sir. Thumbs up. Subscribe. Which is what you should not do to this podcast. All right, gentlemen. Anything else about this podcast?
About this podcast,
about
you know what?
This nonsense.
I'm getting close to Festivus, so yeah, I do got some issues with this.
Star Wars. I told you, Star Wars Festivus this year is going to be real life Festivus. It's just going to be complaining about everything that's happened this year. All right. Anything else? As we are at 2 hours and 40 minutes.
I mean, if you want my Festivus hot take real quick, I'm just annoyed that they won't let us have Robot Chicken Star Wars anymore, but they'll just steal that idea and use it in the Lego holiday special.
Until you watch that whole thing, man, I wouldn't even compare those two.
You're giving the Lego Holiday Special way too much credit saying that.
Exactly.
Oh, no,
Exactly.
I've watched it. I've watched it in full, and I'm like, it's just like a toned down...
Exactly.
Like Robot Chicken
I'll say it again. The best thing about that is that they used the real noises for Chewbacca's family. That's all I have to say. I'm done. I did not enjoy it.
Which means that the Master still does exist. All right. So concludes this episode of the Knights of Vader, a Star Wars podcast. Check out the Facebook group. Type in Knights of Vader in the Facebook, and you will find us there waiting for you. If you like what you hear, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Thank you to An Insperiority Complex for providing our theme song. Check out the show notes to hear more from them. For questions, comments, concerns, or snide remarks, good luck. Send me an email. I'll probably read it. Maybe not, unless your name is Gus. If you also want to hear me talk about movies, join me on the Cinemoddities podcast with Rob, as we are in Dancing December Plus, where last week we talked about the Cheetah Girls, and this week we are talking about Lemonade Mouth, starring lesbian Jesus herself, Haley Kiyoko. But when you are not listening to me talk about lesbian Jesus, where can people find you, Zenger?
You can find me on the ZengThis Podcast, where we do nerdy topics every week, and this week's episode is Ready Player One, with John Justice, author of the Embark Saga, and check out his upcoming book, Gon Corbin and the Asteroid of Misfortune.
How many Embark books are we up to now? I feel like I missed a couple.
There is currently 3 available, 4th one that's a side story coming out, and then I think, if I remember correctly, he has another trilogy planned and is currently writing. You know what? If you listen to the episode of ZengThis, he talks about it.
Are you going to talk about Ready Player 2 in your Ready Player 1 discussion?
Wait, did I say Ready Player 1 by accident? Yes, it's a Ready Player 2 discussion.
I thought you were going to talk about the movie.
No, we're talking about the book. Like, we all read the book, and we...
Did you actually read it, Zenger, or did you listen to it?
Of course, if I say read, just assume it's audio book. Come on.
That doesn't count as reading. It's like saying I read the radio. It's like, it doesn't count.
I read this podcast. There, that's my moment of Zang.
Oh, boy. All right, Chris, when you're not going up in valuation as Canada's premier Star Wars vintage collector, where can people find you?
You can find me at the batting range with a Cal Kestis lightsaber and on Instagram at the Chris Porteous.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Bringing it full circle. All right. Good night, but not goodbye. And as always, may the Force be with you.